Live in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Technocrat Live. I'm Matt Newhall, your host, and my guest today is Ed Eisenstein.
Hello.
We're going to be talking about lots of great stuff. The stories that were coming out behind the scenes were incredible. I'm really excited about this. Somebody's texting me already. By the way,
Before the show started.
no, I want people to text me.
Okay.
No, don't worry. So I'm gonna put this up just to remind you. I want you to ask us questions, okay? Whatever it is you want to ask, go on Facebook or go on one of the other social media platforms and ask questions. So particularly Facebook, for sure, it'll come through, and we'll answer them. So, all right. So we have some news. I usually do news in the beginning, so you feel free to chime in if any of this interests you, or you can just look on in abject horror as I rattle through this stuff. So let's start off with something fun. So the Westworld trailer's out. So I don't know if you're a Westworld fan.
Yes.
Okay, good. Oh my God, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about Westworld and the idea of, artificial intelligence and, do they have rights? Is it right or wrong to basically enslave them? And also you mentioned you were a Black Mirror fan, so I'll come back to that later. But I just wanted to say, if you haven't seen the Westworld trailer, check it out. I mean, I think I actually yelled out loud at the end of it. I'm that psyched. I think Westworld is probably the best non-movie sci-fi I've ever seen, and I'm including Star Trek in that. Sorry.
Did they leave off with that, with the samurai scene? Is that where it left off?
Well, it left off with several bots escaping the park.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah. So, sorry, 1 month spoiler warning. Oh, and by the way, if you're mad that we're talking about the Westworld trailer. Trailers are not in the 1 month spoiler because you can see them right away. So from anywhere. So
Everything in trailers free game.
Everything in trailers are fair game. So. All right, so on to more serious news. So the FTC and the Department of Justice have demanded that Facebook pay $5 billion for privacy lapses. So this is not huge news, but I just thought I would mention it, kind of to establish a pattern. There's a lot of tech news. I'm not changing the way I'm picking what tech news I have on the show. It's just there's a lot of news. So that's kind of a typical monopoly case, like we're a giant company and we're abusing our power kind of thing. And I'm kind of glad to see that they are. The thing that's interesting about it is also the DOJ is also going after them at the same time and separate from the FTC. So usually the DOJ and the FTC work together on antitrust issues, and they don't seem to be doing that this time. So it's almost like they're getting double teamed. And I would feel bad about that, except for this next thing. So I have talked to people about this before, and I have a bit of a reputation as a tinfoil hat wearer. So I'll own it. Whatever. Chicken Little only has to be right once. So, but I've told people before that I've been shadow banned on different platforms, and they say that's bullshit. They're not doing that. You're making that up. No, I'm not making that up, and now it's fact. So time to get with the times. Facebook has filed a patent for a shadow banning technique. It doesn't get more official than that. So if you have a patent on shadow banning, nobody can deny that it's happening anymore. It's just a question of when and who and why. Actually, Facebook has been treated me a little bit better, I think, than Twitter. But it doesn't. My personal experience doesn't matter. The point is that it exists. Definitely, social media does do shadow banning. You think everything's fine. You don't see any complaints from them about your behavior. You have no feedback, but yet you can't talk to your social network, and that's crazy. At least I think so. So also in the news today, Veritas had a senior Google engineer. I bet you aren't seeing this stuff in the news. These are major stories, but they're not, for whatever reason, they're not being picked up by the TV news. Senior Google engineer Greg Coppola actually went to Veritas, not anonymously, and said Google is messing with the elections. They're completely biased towards the Democratic Party. They're on their side, and it doesn't really matter whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans. I don't care. That's not my issue. It's that they shouldn't be mucking with elections. Just because they have a favorite in an election, they shouldn't get to favor them and support them.
And how are they mucking with these elections exactly? How do you?
Well, so there was actually a couple of earlier announcements from anonymous Google sources talking about the machine learning or the ML fairness algorithm.
Okay.
So this is a well-known algorithm inside of Google, and the ML fairness is like when you're typing in and something autocompletes. That's one example of something that it does. At least they pointed at that. I don't know if it's accurate, but I'm assuming it is. And so when autocomplete does something unexpected, like there's a scandal about a politician, and you type in the politician's name, and then whatever the scandal is, words that might be associated with the scandal don't come up. That's ML fairness, and they said they're skewing that towards the Democratic Party in particular. Again, I don't care about the Democratic Party or the Republican Party.
They're saying that people
I actually want two healthy parties because that's better for everybody. I really would like three, but two is better than one for sure. So,
who inside Google would be doing this?
In this case, it would be senior technical people being told to by the management of Google. So someone in the management structure of Google is okaying this. I don't know who. Those details are not out, so I don't have that information.
And in your opinion, is it coming from leadership above, or is it internal management who've decided to take these actions?
I think it's both. I think there's, for sure, Twitter. Now, this is not Google. I don't know with Google. Google, they say it's coming from above them, but again, it's all hearsay. Who knows what's really going on? This is what the people inside of Google are saying. But I know with Twitter, there has been at least one case where a rogue element did something where they, shut somebody's Twitter account off, banned someone, and were not told to, and they just decided to.
Okay.
So
rogue employees inside the company.
So yeah. So Twitter has blamed rogue employees before. I have not heard that excuse from Google or Facebook.
Do these rogue employees get fired?
In that case, he did. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. In the case of Twitter,
he works for
in
Facebook
that Twitter
now?
case, yeah. Well, in that Twitter case, he did. Yeah. And as far as Google, I assume this guy's going to get fired. Like the James Damore case where he basically they had a call for statements. He put out an academic style statement, and then someone was like, "Oh, you're misogynist," and it's like, I just put a statement out. And even if it was misogynistic, he's a nerd. That's not his specialty. You got to give him some leeway.
Right.
You asked for him to do this. Right. Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, so that's news. Go check it out. Go check out the video. Come to your own conclusion. But yeah, it's worth talking about because.
Hey, no question. I have a follow-up on that. So these employees who get fired for doing this at Twitter, they just take their knowledge of what they built there and go to Facebook and the other social media platforms and continue that biased behavior?
Well, so of course, in the industry, you got to sign NDAs and other contracts saying what you can and can't do. You can't compete. You can't share data. So theoretically, if they're not in violation of those, no, they can't do that. But at the same time, usually the law supersedes the contracts in the sense that, they can't really you can't contractually force a person into a situation where they can never work without compensating them.
Right, they have to be able to live, and that's what they know what to do.
Right, exactly. So as far as the nitty-gritty details, I stopped following it after that. I don't know what happened next after that. So I assume he got another job with another company, and who knows, maybe he went to Google. Right. Maybe he's the perpetrator.
But I got to imagine that the people who have these motivations, they get fired from one place, they're not changing their attitude. As soon as they have free time at that new place, they'll continue that level of behavior.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. And of course, this is a huge in the IT industry. You were. So I was going to introduce this a little later. But you were the CIO of Nassau County for 10 years. Was
8
it?
years.
8 years. Okay. So you totally. I'm preaching to the choir here. You know this, but your reputation is everything in IT. Mm-hmm. So you have so much leverage and you have so much power. I personally have been in charge of tens and tens of millions of dollars of assets. Sometimes in an emergency with no warning, and you just throw them in there. Fix it. We need to fix this now. You know, kind of stuff. And you know, if they don't trust you, they can't do that. You know, so yeah, if your reputation dies, it dies hard. Yeah. So yeah, I hope nobody hired him, but they probably did.
Yeah, he's working somewhere with the same biases.
Right. He's probably working somewhere with the same biases, and hopefully with less power.
Yes.
Yeah.
But how do you don't see that when you hire someone that's
right
captured later through.
So this is interesting. So this always happens. I never get to the news, and this is exactly what I want to happen. It's a great conversation starter. So this is kind of like what General Alexander was saying about Snowden. So I don't know if you know about the whole Snowden thing. So General Alexander was in charge of the NSA.
Yes.
Yeah, during the Snowden debacle, and of course he looked really bad. He had egg in his face. You know, this nobody contractor stole all our secrets and hid in Russia. You know, damn you, da da da. And so he comes out, and his reaction is all sysadmins can't be trusted. You need to start unioning your networks and coming out with broader and broader layers, and everything has to be a system, which is probably half true. You need to have people that you can trust. Maybe you shouldn't trust everybody all the time with everything, but at the same time, you know, if you do everything on the network, it's you know, it only takes one weak point with access to the wrong network, and you're completely screwed again.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I will say that where computing's gone, and you'll be hearing even more about this, is making silos out of it. Hyper-converged technology, where you really put everything in containers. So on large networks where maybe there's one or two people dealing with that, you know, the sales department and the servers that go from there, if one thing's affected, it will not take the whole network off. So micro-segmentation, hyper-segmentation,
so kind
of builds that in, you know.
You like to see the micro-segmentation as a solution, having multiple kind of almost competitive components within your network to...
Well, just like, you know, it's a very complicated conversation, but ultimately what happens is the resources that the sales department needs, and the resources of computing that the accounting people need should be segmented and separated.
Right.
And ultimately, if you have, you know, a team of technicians, you know, if something goes wrong, the whole entire network doesn't go down.
Security 101, in case you don't know what a firebreak is, you can literally go and look at pictures of it up in Google, you know, because our audience is mixed. There's some senior techs, some mid-levels, and some people who don't. You know, like last week, my guests weren't technical at all, and we had a lot of fun. It was great. They were like asking me about like our robots going to take over and stuff. It was awesome. So Matt and Mike, how you doing, guys? Like a firebreak, you can literally go look up a picture of a firebreak. It's the most elemental kind of security. It's just taking a section of forest and just cutting down the trees for 30 feet, you know, for however much distance of a line. And the idea is if there's a fire in the forest, that it'll hit the firebreak, and then it won't jump it, and then the next segment of forest won't catch fire. So yeah, firebreaking is the most essential security technology you can have into a multi-component environment. It's even simpler than, and of course the next would be building some sort of wall, like a firewall, which is literally like a wall in a castle. So you know, those elements are, then it gets weirder from there. Then it gets more virtual and more conceptual.
But just tying it all together real quick, if you have somebody who's, you know, that's the big fear, an IT engineer, senior engineer, who may have quite a bit of power and may have biases that may conflict with what the owners of that company want to do.
Right. And I mean,
so how does everybody get protected inside of that?
Even if you don't care about politics, even if you just care about, you know, heist movies or whodunits or whatever, you know, that same level of concentrated power being used for personal goals can be used to rip the place off. You know, or it can be used to formulate an attack against a sovereign entity. You know, what I was mentioning before to Laura. That San Francisco actually had a problem with there was an IT tech there that I'm trying to remember his name. I can't remember his name. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so there was a tech there that held the whole city to hostage. He had all the passwords. They hadn't thought to ask him for the passwords, and when he quit, he basically extorted them.
Yes.
And it took him months to recover from it. So you know.
But
you know,
so, and we're bringing up,
and that's the extreme case of what General Alexander was talking about.
But I think this is such an important topic today because people buying cyber insurance, they're protecting themselves from employees, from staff, but somehow, you know, what happens to that IT guy? Look at Edward Snowden's case. It was an unsupervised third party. You know, as we go through cybersecurity stuff, there should be more scrutiny on the IT people and what their motivations are.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a missing component somewhat.
But you know, don't fire all your admins. You know, that was what Alexander was basically saying. You know, just have cybersecurity teams, and that's actually happened. I think that's happened a lot in the IT industry. You just see these massively swelling cybersecurity teams, and I'm not saying there isn't a lot of work to do. I mean, theoretically, you can continuously make more work in that space forever, because unless you're examining every single packet, you're not doing it as fully as you could. Of course, you can automate through signatures and stuff like that. But you know, I mean, I think it's almost like the pendulum swung too far, and it's going to start coming back because I think individual systems like the Internet of Things kind of stuff, you know, you're going to have to start doing some patching at system level stuff and some fixing and system level stuff of, you know. There's going to be a worm that just walks right through it, you know, and they're not going to be fast enough to stop it.
But then again, you know, tying it back to this question mark is who will be the IT guy at that moment who either sees it happening, can prevent it, is not doing something, you know, what's the motivation behind that attack, and how will that person judge of what to happen based on their personal morality?
Right. Well, yeah. Well, then maybe they'll just let it. Well, I'm assuming that in malfeasance, you know, where they allow something to run ramshot on their own network, you know, that's going to be a more clear cut. But I'm talking more about kind of like a systemic, like just. Okay, we're just going to get rid of this kind of role, you know, and it just bothers me because it's not that I don't respect cybersecurity people. I've had cybersecurity people on here before. They have a ton of utility, and I would even say in some ways their utilities are underutilized. But you just you know, the trend in the Linux space at least is for cloud, and really what most people don't realize about cloud is it's usually means that you're scripting whole systems. You have a set of instructions, and that is your system, and you just plop the set of instructions on a blank slate, and bloop,
there you go.
And now you can do this infinitely. So you could have 1,000,000 of these because the set of instructions is the key component. But the problem with this is if there's a flaw in the set of instructions, now they have 1,000,000 machines, you know. So, and also the system that interprets the instructions is very vulnerable in that situation. And Red Hat, I actually asked some guys at Red Hat about this, and they're treating it as such and trying to limit the amount of libraries that are used so there's less vectors to attack it. So they're aware, like Ansible I'm talking about, or Puppet or something like that, that they're vulnerable to that. So they are dealing with it. I'm not saying, but I just can't believe there hasn't been a worm in it yet. It's just crazy to me. And so it's kind of like this. I sound like such a Luddite. You know, it's kind of this.
But you can have the best system in the world if you have as someone who has access and they have a personal issue with what's going on in the world.
Right.
They'll just open the door.
Right. Of course, yeah. Yeah, and of course, how do you cope with that? Well, teaming people up is the way to deal with it. Who maybe have different opinions and different views, and you know. Sure,
because there's so much team building in IT in this.
Yeah. Because nerds get along so great.
You know, hanging out.
Don't be fooled. We're getting along pretty good, but like most nerds,
you talk about team building. I mean, I sit in a room of IT guys. They're all on the iPhone. They don't even talk to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
They were like that before the phones were. Before staring at your phone was a fashion statement. Right. Yeah. So yeah.
But maybe team building and a little psychology. Like a big team building to see, well, that guy's really angry all the time kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. We've had a few best candidate for most likely to go postal.
Or most likely to hack the system and put it on WikiLeaks or something.
Right, yeah. All right, so that was interesting. That was quite a segue. We covered like half of my topics. We're almost done with the show. No, it's good. It was good. I liked it. This is because you know what? This show is about having conversations. And I mean, I know I do the news because I wanted to keep people up on this because a lot of people are not talking about this stuff. But I mean,
well, see, I don't know. You've had other security people on there, so I don't know. A lot of people talks about theory. I live it. Me and my guys live it each day.
Where do you live it? What are you doing right now?
So in my business, when we have clients and we get, I would say, several calls a week with people who've been breached, looking for our service, looking to help them in different ways.
Right. Oh, so
that's how we live it all day. And
So you're running a security company?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Awesome.
My company, UNA Technical, I've had it for many years. UNA Technical, and I have a team of really brilliant engineers who run a help desk. And
so it's fine. We'll probably put after the show, we'll put a URL up in the show notes so people can get to you guys.
But we deal with cyber attacks all the time. Security is just constantly, and now
are your customers proactive in general, or
once they become our clients, we kind of force proactivity.
Okay,
we can't service
that's a conversation,
you.
Right?
But we live it all day, and I see the spear phishing attacks and these crazy social engineering attacks that are just so wild on small businesses today and medium businesses.
Right. Yeah, I've had just as much spear phishing activity. So I'm not working right now. It's voluntary. I'm voluntarily unemployed. But like, it's awesome. It's everything you dream.
Really?
It's wonderful. I love it.
I only had a week
I'm
of
doing
that.
this. That's what I'm doing. So yeah, it's really like, I really didn't only had like a week off here and a week off there since the 90s. Right. And I mean, I don't know if I'm retired for now. I'm not retired forever. Nice. But it's given me the chance to do this, and I really love this. I really love listening to people's stories. I know I've done most of the talking, but we're getting out of news soon, I promise. Steve's laughing.
We're still on news? Wait, I think we're doing the 3 hours.
All right. Yeah, everybody tells me the same thing on the show, and it's funny. It's a stick I do because I wait till halfway through the show or 2 hours on the show. I say, we're in 2 hours, and they're like, what? Everyone thinks that we're going to be out of here in 45 minutes, and it's weird. It's almost like I know you've done presentations before, like tons. I'm sure you've done tons of them.
Yes.
So I mean, you know the rule. Usually, whatever you think it's going to be, double it. And that's how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
It's more like triple it on this show, man. Because when you make it a conversation and you can kind of go on whatever segues. Oh, I went segues. We're still doing it from show one. So it just keeps going. All right, so let me keep going.
You're very captivating, so that's what probably fills the space very well.
Well, I thank you, and as are you. And thanks for the compliments before, Steve. Of course, he did it off camera, so no one got to hear his flowery compliment.
Beautiful, Matt.
He's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I feel very at home.
The triangle of joy. All right, so
the next news item.
Next news item. Yes. I'm gonna get to the next news item, I swear. Oh, and also, so here's one. Now we're getting more straight up into politics, and I really didn't want to get this heavy into politics. It's a coincidence, I swear. Tulsi is suing. Oh, there it is. This is yours.
Nice.
So that's yours in case you want to follow along with it.
Is there any way I could possibly request a little bit more coffee?
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, bud.
Thanks, man. So Tulsi Gabbard, who's one of the Democratic presidential candidates, just in case people think I'm being mean to the Democrats, I'm actually defending a Democrat this time, is suing Google because during the debates, they shut down a component of her donation mechanism. So there was some piece of her donation mechanism, I don't really remember what the name of it was exactly, that they shut down, that just became inoperative for 3 hours during the debates when a lot of people were searching for her. There was actually Google stats, they actually published the stats, probably another piece of Google that was more innocent to whatever was going on. And she was the most searched for candidate during those debates. And she wasn't able to accept any donations. And the funny thing is, I just kind of beat everyone up on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook and you hate my guts because I was beating you up, what I was actually trying to say is the way the DNC rules changed is that if you donate to a small candidate, you enable them to be in later debates. So, it doesn't even matter if it's $1, it's the number of donors that matter. This is the new DNC rules in reaction to kind of the 2016 mess. So, it's a good rule because this means that smaller candidates can get a voice, and even if they can't get elected, although maybe they can, they can get on the stage and they can introduce new topics that maybe the media might not have. Because the media.
So she was affected poorly by this.
Yeah, she's claiming the damages were $50 million worth of donations.
But what catches me is I thought you earlier said that Google was doing things in favor of the Democrats.
Right, exactly.
So how?
So yeah, this is
I don't understand.
Well, so I think what's going on here is
some Democrats, not all Democrats.
Yeah, it's saying it's some Democrats, not all Democrats, right? So I mean, I'm currently. So I am an independent. I have views on both sides of the board. I have things that are pro-Republican and things that are pro-Democrat. So I'm all over the place. So if most people are usually like, yeah, I got his number, and then boom, I come around with something like this. Yeah, I mean, the best I can figure is she's not a war hawk. I mean, she's really she's a vet. She's actually still actively in the military. She's still serving.
She did great. I think she's a pretty great speaker.
I think she's a great speaker too, and I really want her in the debates, regardless of whether you like her or not, because she's going to bring up new topics.
I agree.
So it really annoys me that they're cutting.
Out of all the candidates, I thought she really presented well. And
I thought so too. I saw her on a few different shows, including Rogan, and it was excellent. I also like Yang. I also like Gravel. I think he's probably done, but I'd like to see him in the debates just because he's going to raise interesting questions. I tend to lean populist if all things are equal, but nothing's equal right now. So that's But yeah, I
caught the 2 nights of debates. It was lengthy. It was hard without keeping notes to see what everyone was saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was definitely some talking over each other. They also cut Yang's mic. Since we're talking about this stuff, another anti-democratic thing. They cut Yang's microphone off. There's video of him out there. Everyone was talking over each other. Well, the only microphone that got shut off was his. So he tried to do the same thing all the other candidates are doing. He said, hey, wait a minute, what about this? And you see him mouthing something. It's not coming through the microphone.
Wow.
Yeah, he was pissed about that. So that went out there. The thing that's really bothering me is this stuff isn't getting covered in the news. What the hell are the journalists doing? I mean,
We'll bring it right out.
Thanks, man.
Anytime.
All right, Steve. All right, so I want to see a fair process not even because I believe the process always works, but it's what we've got. I mean, democracy is the best. A republic is the best thing we've got until something better comes along. Regardless of how you think the republic should look, we need government. We need a government that's fair and that can give people a chance to say their piece and be
what is the most common form of government that's existed in the documented human world? Type of government.
Oligarchy, disguised as monarchy. Yeah. So.
Would you say that covers most of our history?
And here's the interesting thing: is that oligarchy, and you may not have realized this, that oligarchy usually justifies itself as a technocracy. And technocracies usually justify themselves as meritocracies, and meritocracies where, I've contributed, so therefore I am worthy, But just because every technocrat says they're meritorious, but meritocracies. Technocracies are not always meritocracies. In fact, sometimes they're not at all. To me, the best meritocracy right now is open source.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think because
globally, I hear you.
Because there's a lot. People can mock you, make fun of you, abuse you, and if you write great code, there's no denying it. When you run the benchmarks and your code's better, you win.
That's true. It's the equalizer.
Yeah, it really is and it doesn't. The barriers to entry are almost zero. Basically, you just need a Raspberry Pi and a brain. So yeah, I really I'm a huge fan of science, and in particular, computer science as the model science right now. So
yeah, no, you make me think about the young kid. I think he was in his teens when he used an AM radio, and I think it was Raspberry Pi to break into the into the pin codes that the little tags.
Oh, okay.
The security tags we were using to.
Oh, RFIDs.
The RFID tags.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So the RFIDs are a huge problem.
AM radio and some kind of computer.
So there was a problem with New York City was actually tracking using people's RFID tags in their Easy Passes to do traffic patterning. So this is an interesting one because it's really ambiguous, right? So knowing what traffic patterns is a good moral end, right? But it could totally be abused, right? It's the same thing as the toll booth problem.
Sure.
If all the government has to do is start timing in between toll booths and speeding ticket.
Yes.
Yeah. So is it good or is it bad? I don't know. I put my Easy Pass in a Mylar bag because you get enough stats without me. But, you know, for the average non-technocrat, they don't know what the heck's going on. You know, so it's good to be a technocrat.
Yeah, I mean, I figure I'm being tracked in many ways, so what am I going to do?
Right. Oh, so you're like a transparent society guy. You're more, or our privacy is already dead.
Well, I don't
know.
I think that if you use the philosophy of living in the now, you know, and being fully expressed, you have to accept that it's a part of our times.
Right, right.
If you're denying the fact that you're being tracked and watched by the Chinese government, by NSA, just live your life. I mean, it's just a sign of the times.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you remember what everybody said, whether this is in autopilot mode or off or anything, it's still sending your traffic patterns to Google or what you're doing.
Right, right.
So
to a point of creepiness, like, hey, we think you're over here. How do you know that? We think you're going to go here at this time. Here's the traffic. What?
What are you going to do? It's a sign of
you know. At first I was horrified with that, and then eventually I just gave up being mad because, you know, I just forgave him because what else could you do? So, you know, I think that's...
Not use the technology.
Not using... Become a Luddite, right? You know, move to the sticks, live in a barn, you know, herd sheep, you know, grow wheat.
But I love the technology.
Good luck competing, but you can still do it and survive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as long as you have a big pot to pull your property tax from. All right, so there's still more news. Still going. All right, so that was, this is actually mostly fun and good now. So Microsoft is actually being the good guy for a change. So, you know, I'm a Linux guy. We had plenty of practice beating up on Microsoft. They're not always good, but lately they've been very good. So apparently, Microsoft is working on a piece of software called Election Guard, and it's supposed to be a ticketing system where you can actually, this is something we've talked about before on the show, where you can actually check what your vote is using an encrypted key from home. So it looks like they're doing the thing that we were talking previously about on the show, and I didn't even know about it. I have a link here. It's called Election Guard from Microsoft. So if you look that up, you'll be able to find it.
Is going to build an electronic election system.
They're going to build a piggyback system. I don't even think it's for an election system. It's a system to sign your election vote. It might be more. I don't know. It's a little ambiguous right now. You know, it was just a high-level news story. Yeah. But nothing in it rang untrue, so I think they really are doing it. I just don't know the details yet. But yeah, apparently it's going to be open source too. So whatever, yeah. So good for them doing it the right way. I mean, most of the election software out there is not open source. So just that alone, world better than anything that's not open source that we're doing out there. Because that way, you know, enough eyeballs, all bugs are shallow. So I'm really excited. This is huge news. That's what I'm saying. This is like, these are big things. And of course, a little sillier, but actually kind of big too. And it goes into custody chains. So there is a company that is making drones that have attached flamethrowers that can shoot up to 25 feet.
Awesome.
And they hold up to a gallon of fuel, which means that they can shoot flames for 100 seconds.
Wow.
So this is bona fide weapon of war kind of stuff. And the best part is, because they're so new, there's no regulations on it anywhere yet.
Really?
So you can just go on the internet and buy a TF-19 Wasp and proceed to light things on fire from the air. It's only $1,500.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
So if you have adventurous children and you want to give them a happy birthday gift, this is not a legal endorsement, but I'd recommend getting an approval from your doctor.
I think buying. So I own several drones. I've invested thousands of dollars in drones.
Yeah, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, probably, large amounts of money.
Yeah.
And I don't believe putting a flamethrower on a drone is a good idea for the public.
You're so straight. You're such a chill guy, and it's so straight-laced the way you deliver that, man. It's perfect.
Yeah. maybe Roman candles, once a year. But
so there is a legitimate application. So if you see the video, the promo video that they have out, it is a real company selling a real product, and the idea is clearing power lines. So if there's growth on power lines and it's really expensive to get someone there, you basically just have a guy in a pickup truck show, pull the drone out of the pickup truck, turn it on, go up there, flamethrow the vines off the power lines, put it back in the truck, and move on to the next one.
How are they doing it now without the drone?
I assume with a bucket truck and, a pair of shears.
That's probably the better idea.
Yeah.
I just don't think the technology's there where...
what could possibly go wrong?
Every operator's going to grab it.
Yes, it's my Amazon drone. No, it's not my Amazon drone.
That ain't no power line. Oh, hello, little birdies.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I was like, I just found that one right before a show, and I'm like, this is perfect. I have to mention it on the show. I've never seen. It is truly something straight out of Terminator.
Nice.
It's like okay, Skynet's going to pick 20 machines to mass produce to kill humans. One of them, flamethrower drones.
Well, I will do that. If you wanted to make a show where we demonstrated how it worked, like an unboxing,
right?
We could do that together. I'll buy
that would be great. Actually, the funny thing, this is sad. New York City has so many weapons regulations. The first thought on my mind is, I don't think that one's illegal in New York yet. Maybe I can get it. Because you can't get anything there.
Ship it to Pennsylvania,
Yeah, we ship it to Pennsylvania. Just pick it up in a truck full of fireworks at the same time.
But that's not safe. So I've put many hours on drone flight, and I stopped flying drones when my daughter got freaked out by them.
Really?
My son loved the drone. I used to go out to the park and fly it all the way, miles away. And my daughter was just freaked out by it. So I haven't really put many hours on it in the last couple of years.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting. Well, it is a little freaky because someone could theoretically spy on you from a great distance, if you were out in public at least. If you didn't have walls or windows between you and the drone, even if you did, if you're getting techie enough, but hopefully.
Well, let's talk about that because that's exactly what happened. So when I saw...
Dead mouse.
No.
What happened?
Musician? No.
He was in Canada, and some kids who live next door.
I know. I know who that is. He's a dubstep.
No, I'm saying there's some kids who live next door and on his property just kept flying in drones and spy on him and just working on music and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
That was awesome. Oh, me a beer.
That's awesome. No.
Wow, that's crazy.
Checking him out via drone. That's funny.
Yeah. Good dubstep
helps too, and I think that
act, by the way.
On his property.
Wow.
And they didn't do anything about it, and then eventually he got it taken care of.
Yeah, about getting a BB gun or a .22.
So I know that there's some laws that you can just shoot them down if they're over your property.
I think you can do
there's
that.
There's some states where that's
in your neighborhood.
Yeah. I'm saying in the United States. I don't know in Canada, but in the United States for sure. There's at least a couple of states where if you're on my property,
Or he could have gotten a Mark V and taken over the Wi-Fi signal and crashed a drone on his own. So there's a couple of ways out.
Oh yeah, free drones falling from the sky.
Right, take over the Wi-Fi signal and kind of commandeer the drone.
Thanks for the donation. La, 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 la.
Exactly.
That's more our style.
Got 6 drones.
Free drones falling from the sky. Just keep bringing them. Nice. Yeah, there's at least one good YouTube video out there of a guy doing that. So you were going to tell a story and we cut you off. What was that? About your...
I don't remember exactly, but we've done a lot with drones. So when I first got mine, I really
privacy, that was it.
Thousands of dollars in drones, and then when I worked for the government, we brought drones to the government, and we did a tremendous amount of things where we did major constructions, did flyovers, and gave the workers status and management status of what's happening on the ground.
Right.
So drones had an incredible effect in some of our work we were doing for inspecting projects.
Wow. As an IT guy, have you... So I've been in and out of security teams, so I've actually helped with war driving in a couple of cases.
Wow.
So war driving is where people have Wi-Fi, you're looking for rogue wireless access points, or even probing your own weaknesses to see where Wi-Fi is available. So it occurs to me that there's got to be some kind of drone driving too, right? Where you're looking around to see if they can pick up either signals or actually physically see drones in a particular vicinity. Have you guys ever had to do that in any of your roles?
We haven't had to, but but I've had a war driving kit.
Okay.
And the way that happened is you put a special antenna inside of a tube, and you point it at a building, and you can kind of zero in on the
right Pringles can.
Yes, exactly.
Pringles can. I'm
we were
letting all the
using a
secrets out.
PVC pipe. So.
We just spill it here, Don't worry.
I haven't experimented with the drone stuff with that. The most amazing drone thing that I experimented with was the infrared cameras.
Ah, okay.
So I don't think people are aware that if you have somebody who has a high-end drone with an infrared camera, and they're flying over your house, they can see beyond the walls based on the heat signature what's happening in that home.
Wow.
We're able to fly over a house and tell
I mean the poor people looking at me.
tell you what the insulation problems are. It's meant for, you can inspect the whole building, but if somebody could fly through a neighborhood and see who's home and what they're doing in the house with that, it's pretty scary.
Right, so if you were thinking about doing injected insulation, there's your motivation right there,
But you can fly a drone with infrared camera over your house. It'll tell you what the water spots are, how the insulation's doing. It's incredible.
How many pot plants they're growing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for environmental stuff, it's good, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, they did something like that. So this is before drones were that popular, but they were using actual aircraft, manned aircraft in Florida, and flying over and looking for heat signatures over houses.
Yes.
And they combined either dead or stagnant pools and heat signatures and a couple other things, and busted a whole bunch of pot growers.
Pot growers, yes.
Which, of course, back when pot was illegal in most states, now it's legal in most states. So.
And not that I did too much about it, but there was ways to get around that by putting certain materials onto the ceiling that allowed those heat sensors not to capture what's going on.
Right. Cool. So we did it. We got to the news, man. We got to the news. Yeah. It's not time to close, and we got to the news. So you have a great story. I want to hear all about your story. So when did you get interested in computers?
I guess I was maybe 15, 16, and
okay.
The parents got me a Tandy 1000.
Nice, Tandy. All right.
Tandy 1000, and I had learned a little bit about DOS and learned about DOS commands, and
nice.
Started playing some games and really got into it.
Was it IBM DOS or Microsoft?
It was Microsoft DOS.
Nice.
And I bought the Tandy from Radio Shack when they were big into selling computers.
Oh, yeah. I feel bad about Radio Shack, man. That really made me sad.
I've spent a lot of money at Radio Shack.
I have a lot of stuff with the Radio Shack logo on at home,
But that's how I kind of started, and I just fell in love with computers, and so it's a long story. And then started playing with Macs.
Okay.
I wrote my first song on my friend's Apple IIc.
You wrote a song? You're a musician?
Yes, I've written a lot of songs.
What are your instruments?
I play bass guitar, I play regular guitar, keyboards. I've done a ton of recording.
Nice.
And I actually wrote my first song on a Mac, actually.
Okay, cool. Which Mac was it?
I think it was Apple IIc, I think. My friend My friend Kenny Noga.
So you went digital from the beginning. That's really weird. I mean, I was doing hissy audio tapes, and it was terrible.
Yeah, MIDI.
It was very discouraging.
MIDI.
Yeah. What?
Drummer, you need all the mics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, usually it just was a room. I got one mic. We were budget. We never got to the good setup. It was mostly garage bands. I mean, we could have gone further, but it just never materialized.
I really understood the technology, and then I worked at the Port Washington movie theater.
Really?
Became the manager of several movie theaters where they were running Tandies and DOS, and they had their entire management system that I became the manager.
Were they running Windows, or was it just DOS?
It was all DOS.
Okay.
And I learned how to manage the entire business. It was a multi-million-dollar business.
Were you networked? Was it NetWare?
Well, each Tandy was dumping the FTP files every night into the main system of the cinema thing, and it was a really big situation. information, and it was checkers who validated against box office tickets. It was such a large, intricate system. It was really interesting, and I really, it caught
How
my
many
eye.
how many shops were you in charge of at the time?
It was only one movie theater, and then that movie theater owner had 4 more theaters.
Right.
So I was kind of working with those other theaters. And
Well, so this was his system. It wasn't
Right.
it wasn't the franchise system.
Right, it was a franchising system. So back in the day, in the
Okay.
90s,
All right, I got it
movie
now.
theaters were a whole different game, and there was independent
Right.
owners. There was this guy, Mr. Gigi, who owned several theaters.
Mr. Gigi.
Mr. Gigi.
That's an OG name right there.
Yeah.
It was more OG than
He
Gigi.
was mad at me. He was just a nice man who believed in me and let me be the manager of his enterprise.
I have had so many people in my life like that. It's really important. When somebody believes in you, they can make such a difference and help you so much. I mean, I try to do it whenever I can. When some new blood comes into into our user group or something, I'm like, let me see if I can help you get. You have the knack. We got to get you into computers.
Yeah.
So.
And it clicked. So, and I liked it there. I made a lot of friends there and stuff. And then,
Right.
just moved on. I remember I was going to school for computers, and towards the end of college, I met this was a beeper store, and I showed up at the beeper store, and I did some kind of an update to help them and do side work for them. And somehow I erased all of their data, and they went out of business 2 weeks later. And I realized, like,
What?
I'm like,
Isn't that like a
I'm
crime
staying
or
in
something?
IT.
Wow. They deleted all their data?
Well,
or-
no, what had happened is they were using hacked software, and when I began to trigger updates, they were caught in the middle of not paying the bill. And they were cheaters anyway. They were trying to take advantage of me to upgrade software they didn't
So wait, you tripped a tripwire wiring the cheaters, but who were cheating the cheaters?
and then they went out of business.
That's crazy.
And that's when I realized I'm going to be in IT for the rest of my life.
Right. Yeah, I was actually my mom's school. My mom was the attendance officer in her school, and she her secretaries needed help with their computers, and I was just like, I could get paid to do this. And then it was just from then, and then I forgot about it, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a musician. Nice. And then I was all set to be a musician, and then I read a book by a lawyer on contract law, just getting ready for the first time we got signed or something, and I went, nope, and I quit music. I said, I'm going into computers, so I switched over to computers, and I've dabbled with the drums ever since, but I've never really taken that seriously as a career path since then. So I don't want to discourage people from music, but yeah, contract law. At the time, what was happening in the music business, it was the early '90s. It was really discouraging. So I went, nope, I'm not going to have anything to do with that. So
yeah, but music's fun. It's a release, jamming with your friends. It's a release.
Oh,
we jammed with our friends the other night. It was just it's a fun. It's a release.
So you're still playing?
Yeah, we were in a band for a little while with Brian. He was a singer and main guitar player, and that's it. We
Brian's the guy who you sent me.
Right.
I definitely want to have Brian on the show.
So I got to tell you,
Brian, if you're watching.
We had a great band,
call.
but life took its course, and we just couldn't hang on to it. And now we jam once in a blue moon.
Right.
But it was interesting. We sat down last Friday, and within moments, we were right back on the.
Right.
We really nailed it right off the bat. We were great musicians.
That's awesome. You just got right back on the bicycle and started riding.
Bicycle and riding it. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
A lot of fun. And I love jamming it. And the drummer I play with is my friend from high school.
Mm-hmm.
So he lived a block away from me when we lived in Port Washington growing up. And then somehow, 30 years later, he lives a block away from me where I live in Belmore. So
really?
Yeah, and we still jam together.
I grew up in Wantaw, so.
He's a very good friend of mine. We spend a lot of time together.
I actually wanted to, you had told the story before the show,
yes.
And I want to get into this. So apparently you came to this country in '83. You were off the plane in '83.
Yes.
And you went to Astoria. And actually I have a connection to Astoria because that's where my wife grew up.
Yeah.
So tell me all about, I saw Astoria in the early '90s.
Yeah.
But what was Astoria like in '83? What was it like coming?
So this is what I remember. So we land in New York. I'm a young man. My family. It was my dad, my mom, my brother, and I. We landed in New York. It was I think September. It was very hot out. It was at night, and I couldn't believe what it was like. Our whole lives we were like, hell, we're coming to America, we're going to see all this great stuff. You land in Astoria, Queens on a summer night during a garbage strike.
A garbage strike?
So here we are. Here I am imagining these, like, the golden streets and the cities, and we're driving through this really not so, shady neighborhood. Garbage.
Yeah, there were definitely shady neighborhoods in Western Queens.
We hear gunshots. It was really an amazing experience to be a young man.
Were you cursing that you were like, what am I doing here?
What happened? Did I die on the airplane and go to hell or something? Like, what happened? It was really amazing.
Don't fall asleep on airplanes.
And I was a little skinny kid, and it just.
How old were you?
I think it was like 11 or 12 years old. And
that's rough. That's the worst age too.
Yeah,
because you got all the man stuff, but you don't have any of the muscles to back it up.
The muscles, especially with those gang people. But so I went through kind of like a really tough time there, getting used to it. I didn't really speak English so clearly, and I was really having a tough time getting used to it.
It's so weird. Your accent is perfect. Yeah. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
You speak perfectly, It's not. It's
And when you come here so early.
Well, some people, I think that is like kind of genetic also, like the ability to pick up accents. I don't know how you are. Do you pick up accents when you travel, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So my wife just came.
It's embarrassing sometimes, right?
My wife came to America when she's 19 compared to me at an early age, and it's different. When you go to high school and stuff, and you're stuck with it. She has an accent. I don't. But it's just the only difference is the age that you made that transition.
Right. Got it. Yeah, I mean, like we went on a cross-country trip, and my wife was mocking me because I picked up alligator talk. I had a deep Southern accent from pretty much from Arkansas to Arizona, which is about where people have an accent down there, and it was. I'm even doing it now. I'm trying to stop myself from doing it because I immediately. People think I'm making fun of them because if I speak to someone with an accent, I can do a perfect Indian accent. I can, I'm pleased to be pleasing you. I can just, I just, it's not even like I'm doing it on purpose. I just snap into it. And
I gotta tell you, we went to an alligator wrestling match last summer, and you kind of look like that guy minus the leather hat.
Yeah, wrestle alligators.
You feel like full Hulk Hogan?
What?
Maybe some Randy Savage.
So yeah,
I'm really a nerd. The truth is, I'm a cross between the ogre from Nerds and the other nerds. Nerds.
Great movie.
Great movie.
Big
man.
80s, 90s. Movie.
So how did he survive that, man? It sounds crazy.
I just I went through some stuff.
I mean, there was kind of mafia kind of stuff going on there too in Astoria. There's a lot of gang stuff. There was a lot of theft. I mean, I just from hearing it secondhand. Also, I saw it. It wasn't all bad. Astoria wasn't the worst neighborhood in New York, but it was problems for sure.
But we had relatives there and friends, and that's where we were gonna enter the American scene, if you will. Mm-hmm. And it was really rough for me. I didn't have any friends. It was just us and some relatives. And then, one day I don't know. It was a friend that I met in school. But he's like, listen, you have to listen to this music. And I wouldn't really listen to any music other than Pavarotti that my parents were jamming down my throat every day.
Right, yeah, 1930s show tunes.
Oh! I'm like, listen, don't put that. And then I heard it, and I heard this song.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I felt like, and I still remember it today, like my whole life changed from that song. I'm like, what is this? And I started listening to this music, and it started to really breathe life back into me, and I overcame my depression. And it was by my friend Bogdan at the time who got me into this, and it was when I heard Twisted Sister for the first time. I was like, holy shit.
Shout out to Twisted Sister.
America is fucking awesome.
Right.
And really, I don't know what it was, and it's, played down, I guess.
New York has got a unique personality, and they were part of that.
And it just came
for
out,
sure.
and it began to breathe life back into me, and I was like, really got into heavy metal. And
really? So they were your first heavy metal band, huh?
And Quiet Riot after that.
That's awesome.
all
awesome.
these bands, you know. But definitely Twisted Sister at the beginning was the big deal. And my friend had lived in Baldwin, and we heard that they were recording there.
Yeah.
So we would skate by and try to meet them all the time. It was like a whole thing around Twisted Sister. So, and I play bass today, you know.
You skated all the way to Baldwin, or you took the train out there?
My friend lived a few blocks from there.
Oh, you take the train out and meet him,
and then we go skate near the place.
Well, but no, because my friends and I would ride our bicycles all around Nassau County. I mean, we went 20 miles on bicycles, on BMX bicycles.
Yeah,
you know, our poor parents, if they rolling in their grave right now. But
Can you imagine the places where I went on a bike? Oh my God! I hope my kids never do that. I hope that scares the heck out of me. I don't know how.
It's crazy. I don't know how I'm not dead. You know,
and no cell phones disappearing all hours.
Yeah, right. You know, like before cell phones, when you left the house, you were gone. That's it.
Yeah,
you
cops
vanished.
Had to find you.
Right. The next time someone heard from you was when they read about you in the newspaper.
And man, look, we did all our crazy stuff, you know, before cell phones came out, thankfully. So that was really good.
You know, my first heavy metal band. I'm totally shocked you were a metalhead, and that's I don't know why, but I think that's awesome, and I'm glad you're into metal.
Not only that, but it gave me such a sense of art that was so important for me to make it through my rough period.
Right. Well, you know what? So here's the secret. So I with heavy metal, and a lot of people, I think I've had people argue with me on this, so you may not agree, but I think it's true. And I forget who it was. I think it might have been David Lee Roth that said it. That heavy metal is really about conquest. Right? And that's when you're down on your luck and everything's bad and everything's awful, and you hear that, and you're just like, wow, you know, like I'm going to crush this, and it just invokes kind of like that warrior spirit inside you. So, you know.
Mustaine said something similar.
Was it Dave Mustaine that said it?
Similar. No, he said like when you're in that mood where you need to overcome something, or if you're just angry or whatever, nothing fills that thirst better than metal.
Right. Nice. Yeah, I completely agree. Actually, there was a great article.
Mustaine is my top. I'm
really
so in love with Dave Mustaine. He's just a fabulous.
So I was into
musician. I mean, if you look at his history, it's just incredible. He's got throat cancer. I don't know if you guys heard.
Yeah, I know. I heard, man. I hope he's all right.
Yeah. I mean,
did you get Endgame?
40 times in concert.
Did you get one of the newer albums, Endgame?
Yes, I've heard.
Yeah, and This Day We Fight is like one of the greatest songs ever written. I mean, it really is. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Wake Up Dead. You know, when I heard that, you know, it was incredible music. You know, and there's a guy in my office that works for us. We both talk about how that song both.
Wake Up Dead. Yeah.
Jumping on the fence,
what?
you know.
Yes, please.
Jumping on the fence and stuff. Thank you, my friend.
Oh, look at the coffee. Thank you, people. Thank you. Coffee. Ooh. So
I gotta watch that video tonight.
I was into Crew and I was into Poison, but I really liked them and they got me into rock, but it was like mixed up with other things. The thing where my balls dropped was Megadeth. So Far So Good, So What. I heard that album and I could feel the hair standing up on the back of my neck thinking about that album.
So my parents are like, oh, he's never going to be into guitar. He's never going to be into guitar, you know, and I was able to play a couple of songs off that album from beginning to end. My parents are like, all right, he's into guitar. That's some complicated stuff. I'm perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's really. I mean, you know, they thought I think Mustaine was in some kind of macho
Darkest
contest.
Hour. That's a great song.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That whole album is.
Song. Oh man,
I was just doing I just had an idea.
We should do a heavy metal show, man. Come on, bro.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's review.
All right, I'm into it, man. I'm a little rusty, but I could pick it up. I mean, I'm good. I just didn't think there was a future in the business, but.
No, just to talk about. No, I don't think people want to talk about rock and metal.
Yeah, so so Steve was already on my show. I actually interviewed Steve, and I know it seems like, oh, you know, you're just interviewing the guy that's there, but no, Steve's really interesting. He's got an international heavy metal band.
Really?
Yeah, they got members all over the world. So
we got a guitarist/vocalist in France, and we got a bassist in Morocco, Africa.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a heavy metal singer. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Oh, you're a screamer?
Well, you can sing too, though. You just choose to scream.
I mainly, that's my focus, is screaming.
Right.
So I don't know if you know. So one of my favorite bands that.
Sorry, for me, it's like mentally, you either can or you can't sing, and you can, so you're in the can sing category.
Around 2010, I met this guy, Cybreed. It was an incredible band out of France, and I had the pleasure of hanging out with the singer. So it was around 2010 summer. I see him, and I asked him. I said, tell me about your life. He happened to be an employee at the French embassy. And he goes,
what?
And he goes, Andy, nobody knows. I'm like, nobody knows at work that you're like the #1 French metal singer?
What is it, Saudi Arabia?
And he said to me the most important thing in my life. He said to me, he's like, Ed, he's like, nobody knows about it. This is my thing. All I want to do is marry my girlfriend and have this go as slow as possible because I'm having a great time. That was awesome. What a true artist,
Wow, man. Yeah, when you do it for... You know what? I mean, and that's the thing. I feel like when I say, like, I got right out of music, that I'm like some kind of sellout. But the truth is, it's expensive to live in New York. You have this constant thing, especially like in Long Island in particular. In New York City, you can get by with a subway and a small apartment. Mm-hmm. But in Long Island, it's just like you have to have there's a minimum amount of money you need to survive, and you just can't survive without it. And I saw that looming over me when I was like, I can't make the money being a musician. I'm never going to be able to play enough wedding gigs, to keep my original band alive. And I just, I bailed, and it's kind of sad because I'm glad that you were in it for the art and you never gave up, and I'm really glad to hear that.
Well, not really true. So I had a successful business in the 90s.
Is it in your heart?
So yes,
yes. So it's true that. But keep going.
Yeah. So I had a successful business in the 90s. I sold it and spent a whole bunch of money, built a recording studio. Only a year later to realize I don't want to make money on this, and I jumped back into the IT industry. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So yeah, I realized once it became a business, I didn't enjoy it as much.
Right. Well, that's what happens that's what happened with multiple bands I was in. When you get a group of musicians together, and as the deadlines for the shows start coming up, it becomes more business-like. It's less about goofing around and just doing whatever, and everyone reacts differently when they're serious. It's very hard to be creative and serious. This is something that affects IT too. Because if you haven't worked in IT before, if you haven't worked in computers, or really, I mean, any symbolic analysis kind of job, it's just you get in there and you have to come up with this balance between the day-to-day operations of moving things forward and being creative and coming up with new solutions and solving puzzles. And not everyone can do it. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of people can't do it. I think that I think being able to marry those two things, at least to some degree, is kind of the knack. Mm. Like the Dilbert, the knack when you have he's got the knack for computers. It's not just the computers, it's being able to look at the computer and stay calm and diagnose it in the face of everything else in meat space, in the real world,
Meat space.
Meat space, yeah.
I've never heard that like that. so I got to tell you, I met somebody recently who I'm a big fan of, mm-hmm. and he has a Def Leppard cover band. Uh-huh. And I see what kind of personality he is, and to me, I see he's able to keep that balance,
right?
Where he's got the seriousness, but as well as he's like a easygoing guy, and he has deep computer knowledge. So, it can be done. You just have to find that balance,
right? Yeah, so I'm definitely, to answer your question before, that's kind of where this is all coming from. Yes, I'm going to have more musicians on the show. Cool. I actually know some local bands, and I really enjoy doing it. I've been kind of clearing the way, and I did a test case last week, and it was really good, so I'm planning on doing it more, of having some non-technocrats on the show. We're definitely technocrats, and I think the majority of the guests on the show will always be technocrats, but I think there's a space for people who are not technocrats, because the truth is, you're in the technocracy whether you like it or not. Everything in your life is being affected by decisions made by technologists at a great distance from you, and you have no interaction with them. And I mean, whether sometimes it's great. Sometimes they make great decisions, and end up feeling and acting smarter because a choice was made for you that got something out of the way, and now you can do the thing you really want to do. But sometimes technology completely gets in the way. So can you think of anything? Do you have any pet peeves? Is this something you want to talk about, like where technology is really in your way, where it's created a problem for you or your company or somebody you care about? Or
the thing that bothers me the most about technology in serving companies and governments is these attacks that are happening, from these spear phishing attacks, the social engineering, the phone calls pretending to be IRS.
Yeah.
To me, it almost feels like it's like an attack. What I've learned about war, what I've been told by some great leaders, is that during an act of war, the first thing you go for is the communication systems. Mm-hmm. We're under attack in email and these phone calls. I don't recognize how that's not being taken to extreme lengths to block and attack. I mean, I've had personal conversations with kids in Pakistan who are sitting in a call center with thousands of people. They're like, this is just an after-school job for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, while we're techno people and we understand this, do you know how many people are being affected by these hacks?
They have no idea what's going on. They just know their life sucks and they don't know why. Right, and they have no say, no decision making over it. Well, part of the point of this show is to try to educate people, at least if they know what's going on. So, one of the things that bugs me about this is that, I mean, we're in a democracy. Specifically we're in a republic, but we're in a democracy, and the idea behind democracy is the people govern. If you don't know what the hell's going on, you can't govern effectively. Yeah. So if we're in a technocracy, we're screwed. I mean, if we're in a technocracy and people don't know what's going on and they aren't paying attention, so for sure there is a global cyber war going on. Anyone who does any kind of server administration or caring sees logs knows that.
So do we have to establish it right now? We are inside of a significant cyber war,
right,
and an attack on the American communication systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And people
why isn't that discussed?
And the worst part is sometimes it's even our allies. Right. Sometimes it's our allies or it's elements within the countries that our allies control.
Or the tools we used,
right, or even our own
being used
too.
Against us.
Right, yeah, for sure. So here's the part that's the dark part, right? And here's I actually have something pretty deep to say, and it's a little weird and dangerous, but well, let's start with zero-day exploits, right? So zero-day exploits, what most people, this is you can't really govern if you don't understand this. If you're in a military, I realized this when I wrote a book about nanotech, and I realized this, gaming that out and figuring out, and it actually, what I learned there applies to everything. So it also applies to zero-day exploits. If you're a military force and or a kind of a paramilitary force, an intelligence agency that's there to assist the military and maybe stop communications, like you said, you have to have a bucket of zero-day exploits if your enemy has them. Right? And zero-day exploits are bugs in programs and operating systems that no one else knows about. So
that
literally,
you can deploy at your enemy.
A lot of people get mad at the intelligence agencies for having these. They don't have a choice. This is how the military-industrial complex works.
Thank you.
This is exactly how it works. Yes. And you can't get rid of this stuff until everybody gets rid of it. So here's the crazy part. This is today's chemical weapons.
Yes.
And I hope to God, because Einstein was right, we're not getting out of World War III on the other side. It's going to be a mess if we ever have to go there. So I'm hoping without a war, we can get to an aha moment where we can realize, our arsenals of zero-day exploits are actually chemical weapons. And we need to write a treaty that nobody can use them. And if you get caught using them, you're in big trouble. There's going to be embargoes, there's going to be trade problems, there's going to be, there's going to be punishment and consequences. And that's, but at the same time, until that happens, I can't blame the NSA for having a huge pile of these things, because they have to, because Russia has one, and China has one, and Iran has one, and even North Korea, who probably has 18 computers to rub together, has one. It sometimes amazes me the amount of attacks that come out of North Korea, considering their infrastructure. But
well, I think that part of this important conversation is the China chip. Mm-hmm. The Bloomberg discovery.
That would also be...
And if you're looking at what's happening, that hardware infiltration that's being used by our government against others, this is documented. You could read it all over the place.
Right.
Is a real thing that was found. And if you really look at the bottom line, that chip talking to the BIOS is going to override anything that's operating system on that hardware. Mm-hmm. Is it possible the future is who's implanted the chip aftermarket the fastest that has true control over?
Yeah, whoever.
Networks?
Well, you see it with Bitcoin. So not everyone knows about Bitcoin, but a lot of the Bitcoin miners are in China. And the reason why is because China is doing a lot of the manufacturing. So as soon as Bitcoin became more optimized for specialized hardware, where specialized hardware got to the point where it was faster and it was worth paying a little.
Video cards and
the ASICs they're usually plug-in devices that the powered devices that you run in just huge clusters to work on mining Bitcoin. When China started manufacturing, they said, why are we going to sell these? Let's just keep them. And the companies that were manufacturing started Bitcoin mining. So this is a huge. This is we're at the, and that's also that's a military threat. The military missed.
Yes, thank you.
They failed.
Thank you. I agree.
They completely failed. They're all like zero-day exploits. And what about the manufacturing? We have to do some chip manufacturing here, so that when something like Bitcoin comes along and you want to start mining it, you need to do those ASICs. So this is how the military. A lot of people kind of their eyes roll back in their head when they hear that Eisenhower quote, about the military-industrial complex. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
This is what that means. Having to have massive standing armories and armies of various assorted sizes. It's not just troops and forts. It's having to have a bucket full of zero-day exploits, having to have a blackmail network. Countries have blackmail networks. Mm-hmm. And because it comes down to the lowest player on the totem pole. If the meanest, scummiest country has a blackmail network, guess what? You have to have one too. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you're going to be caught with your pants down if you ever really do go to war. Because those kinds of things, if you go to war with a country and you get strong-armed, you're done. Your politicians can't move.
It's very interesting. Again, this as well as I do in World War II, the inflatable army.
I don't know. Tell me.
Where the Americans had all those fake tanks and cars on the sideline.
Get the fuck! I didn't know. Tell me about
this.
I don't know about this. No.
The American Army had I don't know how many inflatable tanks and trucks to fake them out where they were coming from.
Oh, awesome!
And in light of what you were saying,
that's hysterical.
The Nazis didn't
probably not laughing at that, but it's brilliant. It's totally awesome.
Check it out, man.
That's really great.
Read in the history books,
Yeah, no, I just somehow I missed that.
So the enemy didn't have inflatable tanks to do the same thing because. Then you think about it if you think about it.
Well, it's that being creative under pressure.
Being creative under pressure.
Right. You have to value your geeks. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
And clearly you don't have to be a brainchild, Look no further than the story of Einstein to see that the World War II, the German side, the Nazis didn't value their geeks. Yes. Otherwise they would have had Einstein. They would have won for sure.
Well, I think they valued their geeks. I think they kidnapped them and tortured them.
That's not valuing. That's
hold on. The Nazis had a different.
That's objectifying and carrying off.
I think the Nazis had a different way of showing love. And their method.
You heard it here first, people. The Nazis had a different way of showing love.
Well, especially as
it's so true. No, it's absolutely. No, you're dead bang on. That's exactly it. They're very weird and German. Yeah. Okay, that kind of screwed them, didn't it? But, a lot of things screw them, but
obviously.
Apparently inflatable tanks were one of them. I didn't know that.
Yeah, read up on that. That's a great freaking story. Really amazing.
How did I miss inflatable tanks?
Yeah, thousands of them to show me the different border. I don't remember exactly where.
Right. Yeah. So I think at some point, if we don't want to have a World War III, if we want to make progress as a species, and become a Type 1 civilization where the planet is working together, and no, I don't think it can be top down where there's a government that says, you will do this. I think we're going to have to agree on it at some level, And
do you feel the world is in an agreement type of mode?
No, not at all. But we have to. We're going to have to because the options are
how do humans military get forced into agreeing?
Military industrial complex until self-destruction. Right? We're dealing with a different world post-World War II. Mutually assured destruction still in effect, right? We're still at risk of all dying because of somebody's hiccup, right? Somebody twitches on the button and we're dead. So we just don't think about it that often. It isn't discussed in the press, but it's still there. All the bomb, they just don't even bother preparing us for it anymore because they know. They know we're smoked. But you know, there's kind of these two trains of thought. One is top down, where you have to take control of all aspects of life,
yes,
because only rational, logical people can make these kinds of decisions. And then there's another train of thought where we have to come up with a system of choices that, you know, a way to come up with benchmarks that we agree on, and then, you know, eventually work in a unified direction, at least towards some things. And to me, you know, and I just
where
can't.
in history has what you described happened?
Where in history was bad. You know, that's
well,
what
I'm saying. Where in history do you see that?
Well, it hasn't happened.
Case study.
We have to be different this time.
But is that realistic?
What is the choice? It doesn't.
But if
here's the thing. It doesn't matter if it's realistic. We have to do it. You know, we can do nothing and maybe we'll be okay. But if we act and we don't make this part of the acting, you know, if we act, we're in trouble, right? I mean, like, so here's a thought experiment to get you into my mindset. So, a lot of problems can be solved. Pretty much, I think all problems can be solved from kind of a nationalistic, you know, kind of, you know, quasi-tribal, localized kind of point of view. Specifically the one that can't is coming up with treaties to stop, you know, treaties, and it has to be a treaty process. It can't just be a treaty, but to slow or stop the military-industrial complex. Because as soon as you shut that one down, let's say you come up with a treaty to shut down blackmail networks, and you fine-tune the terms to the point where it actually discourages it, and it really is effective. They'll just come up with something else.
So you're
right? There'll be the next arms race, right, where they both have to, you know, everybody's got to play ball again. So you have to keep writing these treaties, but you can't let war prompt it. You can't have a World War I and have millions of troops dead from chemical warfare.
So you're describing important developed nations working together for a common cause.
Right. But
isn't that what the EU was supposed to be?
Yeah, well,
what is Brexit?
That's a good question.
So where is the world going based on what your example is?
Well, right now we're going in 1,000 directions. That's pretty clear. So I think what happens...
EU was supposed to be what you've just described.
So to me, I want the Star Trek world. I think most nerds do, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but the question is...
And I just want to tell you a quick story about Star Trek. I'm a huge fan.
Right.
But I saw it in Vienna as a kid, and it was all dubbed in German. And of course, they do a wonderful job with it. When I saw it in America, I go, holy shit, these guys could speak English? And my dad said, don't worry, there's no way the Americans built that spaceship.
Nice.
It was interesting to see it dubbed in German and then realizing that the original language was really English.
Uh-oh, I lost my mic. Sorry. Hold on, technical difficulties. I bent down to get a pen and maybe... It's getting weird. Oh, weird. It's getting... All right, threading the needle.
I'm just trying to get this up to speak louder.
I was... All right, sorry, folks.
Star Trek German.
That was a first. I've never lost my mic. I've never gotten so nervous about. We've gotten so far into the conversation. I don't want to lose it.
It was off camera too because it was on him.
Oh, okay, good, nice.
Funny.
Thank you. All right, good going, Steve. Steve has got supernatural forces on his side.
Well, hold on. We're all Dave Mustaine fans, so it's a very comfortable room right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you really there's nothing quite like a mosh pit. Put up, inspired by a band that has to hide themselves in a cage so they don't get involved in it.
Listen, at the end, we're all going to listen to Wake Up Dead at the end of the show.
Yes!
And go back to 1985.
Yep. Yeah, that's me. That's it. Anyway, sorry. So, I hope this isn't too heavy.
No, not at all. And I just want to say, I don't know if they know, but having met Mark from Twisted Sister and having the conversation with him and talking that way, really, it was like, I was thinking about my whole life, about what I would say to meet the guy, you know what I mean? So
right.
Really great to meet such a nice,
it's awesome.
Personable guy who's made such a history for so many kids, you know?
So, it's going to sound like I'm blowing smoke up his butt, and I hate blowing smoke up people's butts. I don't like to do that. But I'll tell you, there are two people that I would not I wouldn't really cross anyone in an interview because I try to be a nice guy. But if I ever had to cross someone in an interview, the two people I would be most afraid to cross in an interview would be Mark and Weird Al. Really? Yes, those are the two smartest musicians I've ever seen interviewed. And really? He's pretty intelligent. And he knows his tech. So sooner or later somebody's going to cross him and they're going to get.
Is Weird Al still around? What is he doing?
The Weird Al thing came from there was a story he was on. I think it was MSNBC, and they were doing an interview. It was after his most recent album, the one where he got out of his record contract finally, and somebody was just trying to jab at him and mock him, and he just turned around and said two words, like two sentences, and eviscerated the guy. And it wasn't mean; it was funny, and it was just like. Oh, dude, you shouldn't have gone there. Really? Oh, man. Because he's that's a guy who's super creative and can work in the real world.
He's known for being really creative and funny.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. Why?
Cross Ryan Reynolds.
Why would you have a problem with Weird Al? I mean, he's just silly. He's Conan the Librarian guy. You can't go wrong with that.
What was that?
Yeah. Anyway, so
we listened to a lot of Weird Al back in the day.
So like the problem, I think that the people are reacting to authoritarianism, and the problem with having a hierarchy of any problem of any size is that there's a risk of corruption, and when you have corruption, it isn't. I think that if the thing that open source has figured out, and I'm really happy I was part of Linux, and I think this is new, and when you say things like. When a lot of people, everyone says it. When I don't think history can furnish an example of how something would work like that, and it's I think because we didn't have computers and we didn't have the internet, and you needed those two things to have open source. And open source has demonstrated the power of forking. When two people argue, just split the work up, right? Don't fight it. Let it break up, right? And let both people work on it. Both groups work on it, I should say, not people. Right. Both groups work on it. Let them compete. And then when you look at that and you go, oh, okay, that's made me kind of into a states' rights guy. I'm a states' rights guy. I mean, I was kind of before, but I can justify it much better now. Forking and state rights are the same problem, right? And we're seeing that, and I'm really excited about marijuana. Not because I like marijuana, but
typical conversation.
I just wanted to say I'm really excited about marijuana, right? Because that's. Because
it all fits together.
There's one dude watching. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure where you're going with the whole government and the marijuana thing.
Well, so because each state has passed laws either decriminalizing or legalizing marijuana. It's still illegal federally. If you want a federal job, don't smoke it because they're going to do a blood test and you're not going to get it. But the states have forced the government where they're looking into decriminalizing it now to the federal government because 40-something states made changes to their laws. And so people worked with their local government, and then the local government put pressure on the national government, and they had numbers to back it up as an example. So that's why I have a problem with authoritarianism, because sometimes authoritarianism can be good because it can push a good idea, but it also can push corruption too. It can do both. And that's why I'm like, I see any kind of type 1 civilization that we can have as a planet is going to have to include local elements and the ability to fork when you think that there's a corruption in the system and to break it apart. And it's not easy to do. Because you lose economy of scale.
I just don't know if that utopian society exists in this realm. At this point,
not so far. Forking's new. Forking's relatively, forking with the expectation that your code won't be stolen from you, because there was forking in Unix, right, in the 70s and the 80s, but there wasn't a license to protect it. And GNU was new and no one was using it yet. But once people started doing that,
but look at
so we really had 20 years with this.
But even bulletin boards. When you look at the origination of bulletin boards, people were sharing code like that all the time.
Right. But the thing is, then the Apples would come along and steal BSD and say, yeah, we're going to hire the 3 key developers and everyone else is out in the rain. And they were mad about that. But now, if it's under an open source, if Apple wants to use something that's GPL, they have to release the source code.
Yes.
So I think there's something really to this. I think there's something that there's an answer for how to deal with corruption and embedded in there, and and that's why I was identifying that problem and focusing on the military industrial complex and how it works. Am I right? Will it work? I think it will work. I think I'm right, but I'm open to suggestions. So. Anyway.
I just hope that all those developers and users of whatever platform, is it Linux or whatever, continue to have the right motivation to do it right and share and be those people, because it's possible, like anything else you've seen, a couple of bad seeds and people have, they did this with this technology, so that's why it's bad.
Right.
Well,
I'm sure were you there before when I brought up the Hans Reiser example?
Yes.
So So Hans Reiser murdered his wife, and I don't have to say alleged because he was convicted of it. So go argue with California. He wrote a great file system. A lot of people said it was the best one at the time, and actually it's funny because I know one of the guys that's maintaining the file system became the file system for Linux, XFS. A lot of Linux systems are shipping with XFS these days, but back then a lot of people were switching to Reiser FS. So like I actually have seen part of this story personally unfold in front of me, and like okay, so it wasn't so bad that this guy he was kind of a jerk online. Everyone had a reputation as being a bully and causing trouble in chat rooms and stuff. And he was brilliant, but it didn't matter because he had the code part, but he didn't have the human interface part that we've been talking about, the team.
And look at the Zuckerberg trials. Where is the politics and the technology merge? I mean, to me that was such a wild briefing when they interviewed him. None of those folks had any clue of how this stuff works.
we have been more on point in this talk than they were that whole time.
Absolutely, and
it's crazy.
So how are these legislators and political leaders going to overcome the true meaning of all this stuff?
Yeah, I agree with you. Hold on a second. I actually have politicians in technocracy in here.
Zuckerberg started the whole thing about like how these big executives aren't human, that they're just reptiles in human meat suits.
Right. Well, he's just what it is. He's probably on the autistic spectrum, and
if you saw just the way he was sitting there, the way he went from smiling to just frowning, it all looks very calculated. That's why.
Right. Well, there's two groups of people who might have to do that with their face. Put a look on their face intentionally as almost like a script, and one is people on the autistic spectrum, and that's the nicer answer. The meaner answer is psychopaths. So
I don't know if you look at the Zuckerberg trials on YouTube. They have these fake voiceover ones that are hilarious.
No, really?
It's the funniest thing I've seen is these voiceovers of what they're pretending to say, lip syncing things.
I watched a little bit of that kind of memeing on him, and I stopped because it was funny for about 5 minutes, and then it just got kind of infuriating. Because I'm like, I think there's actually answers. One of the things that we know now that we didn't know before is that we know more about mental illness. We just went through this in my user group. I haven't put the rules up yet, but we just had someone who actually admitted that they were schizophrenic, and they were part of the group, and their schizophrenia was creating problems with them interacting with other people socially. And actually, I think in the past, up till now, when that happens, people just kick them out and say, get lost, we don't ever see you again. They permanently excommunicate them from whatever group it is. They eject them. And actually, I don't think that's necessary. So, and this is the kind of thing, and the research, everything, 90% of what we know about psychopaths has been learned in the past 30 years. Psychology is really coming a long way. And there's some kooky, whacked out things out there that are not true, but
they can stay part of it. You just have to recognize their forms.
Right. If you just come up with I think there are ways to accommodate them. And of course you don't, you want psychopaths to be part of your society because you don't want to ostracize them, because you don't want to make enemies with them, because I think that's one of the reasons they act like in such an antisocial way, because society is so antisocial towards them. But at the same time, you don't want them driving the bus either. You don't want them running rampant unsupervised. So it's like, which is it? I don't know. So I want to get back to the politician thing. So actually, I have a bunch of different interesting things. I was going to talk to you about this. So take your pick. Do you want to talk about the Japan cybersecurity chief, Ted Stevens, Jack Dorsey, or Beto O'Rourke? Take your pick.
Let's talk about the Japanese.
Okay, the Japanese one. Right, get out of our own political space, right? It's the safest thing to do. So Yoshida Sakurada.
Yes.
Sorry. Is it Japan? Sorry, Japan. I apologize to the entire nation of Japan for that pronunciation.
No, and I just want to say something about Japanese names, and we have some Japanese clients, and my partner especially, he really spends time, not joking, in learning these names.
I'm terrible. I'm not making fun of him.
I think that it has a lot of meaning, especially in that society, to pronounce their names. We actually sit there and he practices for an hour or two to get their names.
Right.
It's a big deal.
It's actually a big deal
for the culture. Actually, believe it or not,
it's really important to people that you pronounce their name right, that you know their name. It's psychologically, it's the way human beings work. It's part of our brains.
But
sorry,
if you look
guy.
at the way their society works, I get it and I understand it. It adds this additional dimension about how you give the business card, about the way you speak and present yourself, and
right.
and study all these background things before you speak with
Have
somebody.
you spent a lot of time in Japan, or
No, not at all. I just
you experience with your business partners?
Yeah, and other people, Japanese people and business people I've talked to. It's
okay.
It's a little higher, different realm.
Right. Yeah, I have. So I live where I live. There's a ton of people from Korea. We have a lot of Koreans in our neighborhood, and there's some Chinese, but I have never had any meaningful amount of time interacting with Japanese, so I don't really know that much. Yeah, I kind of hesitate to think I know a culture without spending any time with it. So I really don't know.
I had a friend several years ago. We haven't seen each other in quite some time. But he used to take us all. He was Korean, and took us to these most amazing Korean restaurants through Flushing. That I don't know. For the couple of years we hung out together, had the most delicious food. I don't know. Korean food is just amazing.
Right.
If you go to the right places throughout Queens and Flushing, it just blows me away.
Right. New York.
If you've ever had Korean food in Queens,
it's really weird for New Yorkers when you leave New York.
Yes.
Because we have the best of every kind of food on earth here. Right? I mean, you could argue that maybe there's it's better in whatever country it's native to than here in some places. That's probably true. But other than that, yes, we have the best of every kind of food in the world.
Not that we would
here.
know, we're both very thin, but
yeah. But you can be a foodie, just eat less, right?
It's very hard with the portions you're getting too,
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I agree. When I go on vacation, I'm always losing 5-10 pounds because the food is best around here.
It is. Usually what I found when I go abroad is Italian saves you. Most Italian places are truer to Italian food than most of the local places or other nationalities. But
we're very lucky in this region. You have some of the great restaurants. You got Great Indian in Hicksville, and just all these great restaurants around here. It's
It's awesome. If you're thinking about coming to New York, do not drive here because your tickets will be like your mortgage. But take mass transit. But yes, if you come, check out. Definitely plan on spending at least half your time in restaurants. It's worth it because everything you try is going to be at least pretty good.
If you're going to come to Long Island and you're going to sit in traffic, hit a couple of restaurants. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Long Island is different than New York City. Yeah.
A month ago, and I've been waiting for this for many years. The Jones Beach restaurant finally opened. Gatsby's on the ocean.
What? It is?
I was there last night and it blew me away. It's
nice.
Beautiful. Excellent. The whole overlooking the Jones Beach thing, you got to check it out.
I like the tip. Thank you. I think I'm going to go check it out.
That's a good one. They really did a nice job there.
Yeah, we just checked out some seafood places out in the Hamptons. It was pretty awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So
I think that place was closed for 20, 30 years, I think, right?
Right. Yeah, it was. I just thought it was over. Yeah, there's a lot of things in Long Island like that where you just think it's over, and then all of a sudden one day they fixed it. The construction project's over. It's open. I'm sure you've got good stories like that.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to. This is really interesting. So this guy who I will not butcher his name again is the cyber chief of Japan, of all of Japan. He has no computers. He has no access to computers. He doesn't tinker. He doesn't play. He just makes management decisions. And people come to him with choices, and he makes the choices. But he has no first-hand experience whatsoever with any of this stuff. It's all secondary. How do you feel about that? I mean, kind of runs antithetical to how I've conducted myself to date. But I don't know. I mean, do you think it can work?
Well, he's missing out on some really awesome video games. And some really funny videos. I mean, I've been sending him... I mean, the art behind what's online, he's missing out. He's missing out.
Right. Memes are art. I really think they are.
And the sarcasm that we see on YouTube and social media, he's not getting the culture by understanding what it means to be in front of that screen. Screen time is part of our society. If you decide not to do it, you're missing something from how everybody lives.
So it is hurting him, but not how I thought. I thought it was hurting him in a more practical way, that he just didn't, see the nuance of the technology.
No, but think about who he is. If you're not...
He's missing the culture. He's missing the broader culture. Yeah,
I mean,
holy shit.
When I go to bed, I'm like, oh my God, that monkey grabbing that stick was really funny 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Like, none of that fills his mind. How does he know why we enjoyed it?
How does he know how addictive cat videos are? He never will.
He's gotta be like, oh, I really want to see that show again, or you know what I mean? He doesn't personally understand what the motivation.
Good question to ask you. Yeah, you're the right guy to ask about this.
You got to experience it. Any scientist that I've met that, this is the cup. This is how they use it.
Right.
If you'd be like, oh, the cup, it's round, it's got dinosaurs on it.
Right. Yeah.
You gotta be one with the thing you're investigating and being the leader on.
Immerse yourself in it.
Being the leader on.
Yeah, I mean, how could he possibly? I mean, people. One of his minions could come to him and say, "Okay, cell phone apps are becoming more addictive, and there's social consequences. People are walking into traffic. Children are not paying attention in school. Da 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 da." And he can calculate that logically. But if nobody says that to him, he would have picked it up had he actually played with the cell phone himself. Yeah. So
and he doesn't have that personal connection, and I think that every human needs to have. But with our clients, we have this personal connection when we look at we look at technology and we see it, but it's what does it mean to that user, and then I'll try it out. If there's a pretty complicated problem, I'll go home and I'll try it out myself to understand the feeling, what's really going on there. How can you be consultative without touching it yourself?
Yeah.
In anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
Okay, so that's how I feel too. I wasn't sure, but I left it open so you could go either way.
Surgery if you've never seen a cadaver.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, okay, that's what most people, that was the public take on him. Is like, what does this guy do? Because Japan is completely, this much I do know, Japan is completely tech happy. They have vending machines for everything. Everything has got a gadget. The toilets have, run on batteries. Everything is electrical. And the latest trains, the latest cars, the latest doodads.
But it makes for such a cool story. So
yeah, I mean, it's just so weird. I can't wrap my brain around it.
It's hard to believe he doesn't have any electronics. Come on, man. No iPad.
Maybe it's
nothing?
A lie. That would be an elaborate lie.
Bro, it's impossible. He doesn't have a machine. Come on. Or no IoT device. He has no machine, no IoT, no nothing.
Well, maybe he just went into saturation. He said, this stuff's distracting me from my management decisions,
I would love to know more and hang out.
Yeah, okay, so it was a good thing to bring up. Because, by the way, if you want, ask us questions. So we're here. So feel free to ask us questions. It's not like I don't have questions, but I want to know what your questions are. All right. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So that was cool. And you picked the right one. I think the most interesting case.
Nice. Want to bang through the rest of them? Why not? Let's.
Sure. Let's.
Whew. Water and coffee here.
Well, let's. You know what? Before I get into this list, let's talk about. Black Mirror. So you're a Black Mirror fan. I've seen all the episodes. You've seen all the episodes. It's been a month. Shut us off now if you don't want Black Mirror spoiled. But we're gonna sell you on it, so you're gonna go.
9 Inch Nails cover though.
Yeah, 9 Inch Nails cover in the end of Miley Cyrus's episode.
I fell asleep twice watching that one. Really?
Yeah. All the music that she supposedly writes is all 9 Inch Nails tunes.
Oh man! Wow.
Yeah.
And that's the last.
I mean, there was several. It was one they used a lot from one of the newer albums, but there was also some old stuff too. So.
And that's what I liked about Westworld. They played a lot of different metal tunes on the piano.
Yeah.
They did Black Hole Sun on the piano.
Oh my God,
Do you remember
Westworld.
that? In Westworld?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Black Hole Sun on the piano roll.
Yes.
So in case you don't know, if you're not into computers, the piano roll was in a lot of ways the very first computer program, right?
Apple IIc, sure, that's what I learned.
Yeah, yep. So piano roll is, you could probably argue before that it was a music box, but the piano roll was just a more complex version of that.
The song you're referring to is Right Where I Belong, based on Right Where It Belongs off of With Teeth.
With Teeth, yes, that was a good one, and that came out in I think
2006, I think.
Wow. 6? Okay, I must have gotten it at 9. Oh well, sorry, Trent. Nice, yeah.
But Trent, if we can just talk about Trent for a minute, highly inspirational musician. And I read everything about him, how he used to produce music. He bought a house somewhere and used Digital Performer, and all his artists had a room in this house, and they would all produce tunes, and he'd be at the master console grabbing the best of everything. Incredible producer.
Analog, everything.
Yeah,
just really great recording.
It's weird because you're digital from the beginning, and he's digital from the beginning, and you're both singing his praises for being analog.
Yeah, analog.
Analog for your show.
Oh yeah. Well, no, analog is the first step. Because it's a lot more expensive to do digital. I mean,
It's cheaper to do digital.
Listen, man, my first mixing board was
a digital mics. What would be what's the bus?
No, I'm saying if you just have a mic and an interface, you got plug-in galore.
Right.
You can spend $14 a month to get access to Steven Slate plugins, just a variety of studio and industry standards.
Right. Oh no, I'm talking about like digital mics and stuff. Where it's digital from the beginning. Where I swore that there was some kind of straight up digital where it would just literally would translate it and there was a digital bus from the microphone. But I guess
the microphones have to be analog at some point.
Yeah, of course. Well, it has to interface with the analog world, right? You need meat space air flapping at some point.
What I'm saying for Trent is he used patch bays with analog synths.
Correct.
So,
okay.
If you hear if you're an oscillating effect, it's actually done with like resistors and everything.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it's a legit square wave. It's not manufactured.
Keyboard with digital tones and samples, he did it all physically.
Okay, now I understand it. See, the Technocrat goes to school. All right.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I use a toothbrush in my music, so.
Right. Well, I know there's a huge push back to vacuum tubes for amplification, but honestly, I haven't really mucked with them. Ever since I was.
Helix, which is like a $4,000 sampler, and everyone says it sounds authentic.
Okay. All right. Cool.
So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess I never had the budget to explore that space. I call myself an audiophile.
There's so many components to it, man. Absolutely. Yeah. After I sold my first business, I bought a whole studio and started recording. And I realized after a couple months, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I need to be with computer professionals,
Right.
And I kind of ended the studio thing, went back into the IT industry. And
so like there are some incredibly bright musicians out there, and there are some really dumb ones too. So
really?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's true. Come on, you must have worked with. There must have been a musician in one of your musical outfits that was like, this guy's dumber than a box of rocks. I can't get through to him.
I was recording a lot of hip hop, and in my opinion, besides my friends who brought some of these shady characters, it was just the element was questionable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think that goes with the territory, right? You need the money to survive, and you're trying to be a musician. If you're not smart, you can't use leverage because you're not smart. So, and you're taking up so much of your time being a musician. How are you making your money in the rest of the time?
Exactly.
Yeah, something shady's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah. There was a couple of serious drug addicts in brief encounters in bands, and like it was, what is this guy gonna steal from me? You don't want to turn your back on him,
I put the whole studio in my basement in my apartment, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, they're in your house. You're like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
why is this guy in my house?
On the couch, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Back to IT.
Yeah, you're very creative, but you're scaring the crap out of me. All right, so
but it's actually incredible. I think that the hip hop world that took place, and that when hip hop really took off, and it became the center of music for 10 years in the industry. Mm-hmm. It's just incredible. The early.
Well, at first I was mad at it.
Beautiful.
I was really, it's funny. I was really angry with
those guys.
I was angry with rap and hip hop and R&B because I was just like, it's killing metal. And then eventually I realized it wasn't killing metal at all.
Thank you.
It was just, that it was actually just people needed a breather from it, and that I mean, I was.
Who was putting out?
I was mad at the Black Album, and some bands went this way and some bands went that way, and then once the bands went this way, I got over it. I'm like, okay, I'm not mad anymore because now I see metal's not going to die. I think
Judgment Day. Remember the Judgment Day album?
No.
Where they did all the metal and the rap guys together.
Oh yeah. Well, I love Anthrax, and Anthrax did a lot of metal rap crossovers, and I like them all.
The Judgment Night album that does a lot of
Judgment
cross.
Night. Okay, I actually don't know. I haven't heard it, so
nice. Yeah,
I probably have heard it and don't remember, but okay.
But I just want to say that what was it? Def Jam Records put out all of the early Slayer stuff and whatnot, and produced all of the rap stuff. So it was done by the same company.
Yep. What's up? Oh, right. Thanks, man. Cool. So, all right, so I'm trying to think about what I want to talk about next. There's so much stuff to talk about, and I don't even know. I know that you mentioned before that you've been on a radio show. You've had your own radio shows, or has it been both? Or
so I met an incredible couple who they worked with WOR Radio. This is many years ago, and we piloted a whole bunch of shows, and they taught me how to speak on the radio.
Right.
I did a computer show with them.
How not to swear like a truck driver?
No, in these I did a whole show and I did and it bothered the shit out of me, and I went back and edited all the ums out, and it was a completely different show.
Right.
So I learned kind of through them how to speak, and then towards the end of that, I made a couple of my own.
It takes a lot of practice, by the way, if you're thinking you're just going to jump into this. Yeah.
So. It didn't develop into anything, but it was very professional. It was an important part of my life. And who knows, maybe one day the Computer Doctor will live.
The Computer Doctor? Was that the name of the show? It was called The
Computer Doctor, and I was giving people advice on technology.
Holy cow, you so belong on this show. I can't believe I haven't had you on sooner.
And people want to know about what's happening on your computer, what's happening on the internet now.
Well, if you ever do decide to go, get a show going again, aside from your business, your cybersecurity business, let me know. Come on, and we'll do a cross promo, and and boost you. I just did it for those other guys, so I'd be happy to do it.
My spirits and my life has taken me into a world where I love my business. I love my clients. It's really working. And I love where I'm concentrating my life. It's really working. UNA is a good thing. Music, there's other stuff. It's just happy.
Do you love the people or the puzzles more?
Well, it's interesting. I feel like I like interacting with people. I'm a very people person, and I would say every day there's a brand new situation. We handle quite a bit of clients, and we're very agile. And I love interacting with people and solving their problems.
So you've mentioned Agile and DevOps a couple of times. Are you guys doing more of a Scrum or more of an Agile kind of DevOps setup?
We're a managed service. We're an IT company doing a managed service. What I mean by Agile is if somebody has a problem or things go down or our notification system says a problem,
you're small enough you're not going to silo, in other words. Yeah, okay, that's good.
We're Johnny on the spot. And we're big enough where we can handle a 24-hour operation and the rest of those IT needs. And every day we get, somebody with their needs, and we become their managed service partner. And
so I had actually promised you something about DevOps, and I forgot about it. I just remembered, so I hope you don't mind if I tell you. So I promised I would do this bit on your show. So actually I realized something, and it's subtle, but I think it's important.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons you're seeing all this move towards DevOps is because we were in calendar burnout. And I think the reason that happened is because we had a new technology from the early mid-90s till fairly recently.
Yeah.
And what happened was that people had these calendar apps, and they just started scheduling everything.
Okay.
Right? And they just overscheduled themselves to the point where they weren't being productive anymore. And then DevOps is actually a counterculture reaction to that. And there's something important in there if you realize this. And one of the reasons I want to talk about this, if I had infinite time, I wouldn't tell anyone this, and I would just hit my time off switch and sit down and code something up. But I don't have infinite time.
Yeah.
But I really think that there's a market out there for someone who integrates both kind of like the workflow boards of DevOps into calendaring and forces them to, and does priority groups so that if you manage to integrate them in a way where importance was reflected in a group that allowed you to schedule a particular calendar at a event at a particular time, and also correlated to a task on a workflow board, that you really would have something new, because there's really no integration. I was looking for this. I was hoping the app was out there, and I haven't found it either paid for or for free, where you have a true, like, enterprise level integration of a calendaring app and like a Kanban board, basically.
I get.
I don't want to say Kanban because it could be variations of that.
And I don't want to be biased because I'm an MSP and we sell a lot of Microsoft product, but I feel like the Office 365 portal and Teams integrated with Planner and Project is the beginnings of a really nicely integrated task list and a DevOps thing that's really integrated.
Of course, it has to have calendar integrated there.
So I think that Teams is the closest thing
to what I'm describing.
What you've described so far.
Oh, all right, go Microsoft again with Microsoft.
And again, Microsoft is good and bad, but I really think that the Office 365 platform is fantastic.
I've heard that over and over. Everybody, all the Windows guys I know, I've heard the same thing over and over and over again.
And I see that the next couple of versions are going to get closest to that behavior. I'm really excited about that.
That could be a huge deal maker for that. That could be that could be the killer app for Microsoft.
I just want to talk about Teams just for 1 second, because people don't understand what the point of Teams. It's a really big deal. So if you talk to colleagues at your office and you text each other like, oh, don't forget about to take care of this for the customer, and that employee leaves, those texts leave with that employee. If you're communicating through Microsoft Teams, all those texts belongs to the company.
Got it.
So when
that's critical documentation, especially if you're going like this.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, the majority of people are losing employees, and those texts about the client are leaving with the end user.
You have no idea how many times you sit down behind someone else's code and you go, why did they do this?
But meanwhile, they texted, the thing didn't work.
And the answer's in the phone,
but
in the
meanwhile,
text,
if you
or the emails that went around.
And if you do it in Teams, you'll be able to keep that with the notes the whole time.
That's amazing.
Very powerful, my friend.
Metadata! That's great. I'm so glad to hear that.
Now, Teams is only like a year old, but it's getting there,
Oh, man.
And now remember,
Skype, what I'm going to be doing tonight? Office 365 subscription. And I just haven't had a reason to try it before, but you just gave it to me, man. I'm authentically excited. I think this is the first time I've been excited for a Microsoft product since NT. And you know how that turned out. So,
I'm actually excited about Hello.
Yeah.
And I think and read about Hello every single day. Do you know what Microsoft Hello is?
No, I don't.
Microsoft has decided to put out language that said they're going to come out with passwordless access to your machine. And Hello is the beginning of it. So Microsoft Hello technology is facial recognition, PIN code, fingerprint access into that machine. Now you'll still need to put a password in, but if you have a Microsoft Surface and you're using Hello, you can log into that machine right with facial recognition. So I'm really excited by that. They're putting these releases out. I think it'll be years before it's truly integrated, but I think that's a big part of the next wave is the security and the biometrics that are coming out around that.
So how do you feel about biometrics? I'm actually not. I'll just tell you straight up. I'm not a huge fan of biometrics because I see huge problems with it.
I assure you. So if you look at IBM Trusteer,
right,
and the development around that, they're saying that they can zoom in 400 times into your mouse movements, and apparently every human has individual and unique mouse movements. So by making a circle 8 with your mouse, Microsoft is guaranteeing that every human has a different mouse movement, and that with PIN codes will be a different login. So that's how they can do biometrics. I love that IBM Trusteer concept. With the movement of the mouse, that every human has a unique mouse movement.
So let me tell you about my awakening at Rockefeller University to genetics and to biometrics. And I mean, I was always skeptical about biometrics.
Yeah.
But so I'm sitting in a meeting with some top genetic scientists there, and we were kind of like talking about de-identified genetic data. So of course, what is it? It's just a file with a bunch of numbers in it that represent the double helix and what the particular genes are in a particular person. And of course, if you've successfully de-identified it, all you have is the genetic material and a weird key, just a number, and you don't know who that is. And one of the scientists kind of laughed and went, yeah, whatever. Yeah, that's not going to really work. And we're like, well, it's compliant. And he's like, yeah, sure, it's compliant, but it's not going to matter in a few years. And we're like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I mean, and it was like a Matrix moment. He's like, I can just look at the DNA, and I know this correlates to blonde hair, this correlates to brown eyes, this correlates to tall people. Yeah, and it's gotten to the point where, especially if you're running it through an algorithm on a computer, that you can actually look at DNA, and from the DNA itself, figure out who you're talking about. It's no longer possible to de-identify DNA. And so this is the problem with anonymity in general. Anonymity is a strategy. And Isaac was also our first guest here, had cued me into this. I think it was after he was on the show. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I gotta give him credit though. Encryption expires. And the problem is, a lot of people are like, oh, this encryption is completely safe. It's completely safe right now. But if you capture the session, as the encryption gets weaker and weaker over time, someone can take the now captured session and break through it. So the problem with biometrics is, once it's out there, that's it. You have compromised your right hand pointer finger, or your eyeball, or your mouse movement, or, well, I'm not sure about the mouse movement one, but anything where it's a physical attribute of you, you can't change it. I guess theoretically you could go through some kind of brainwashing to change your mouse movement, but I mean, I'm really a fan of. I like passwords because I can change them. I'm not stuck with them for life,
Yeah, but there's software, so encryption.
I know it's hard to do passwords, and I get it for a non-technocrat, but for a technocrat, passwords are where it's at, man. Because I have control over when and where they. Now that said, I did facial recognition on this, but that's because my face is everywhere. I mean, you could fool one of these with a video of me.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So, it doesn't matter, so it's already, the genie's already out of the bottle. But I mean, New York City, I have a pistol permit. New York City keeps track of who I am through my fingerprints. Somebody else has my fingerprints, who knows what they could do. Right? I mean, that's supposed to be a unique identifier to me, right? I mean, all right, granted, most crimes are not solved with fingerprints.
So what's left if all this information, if your face, your fingerprints, your biometrics all gets out into the dark web?
Then we're back to passwords. That's what it is. We're back to secret keys and secret phrases and stuff like that.
Encryption key management tools that swap them out.
Right. A little password that goes to a bigger password that goes to a bigger password that goes to a key.
That's why I have a partner. We sell encryption management tools, and I really believe that there's a lot of value to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the only, to me, that's the only strategy going forward, because the eyeballs will get worn out.
And if you look at
even the genetics will get worn out.
And if you look at what the government's been saying, encryption is a big part of security future.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that having an encryption server, managing encryption keys.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only
along with some AI behind it is probably.
So you see what I'm saying about biometrics, and I mean, it's really convenient. It was so this thing has an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner in it. And I was like, that's so cool. And I'm like, no, I will not touch it, because I know once I put my finger in there. Now, granted, it's not taking my full fingerprint; it's only taking key points on it. But if that same algorithm is reused somewhere else, how do I know what the curation of the algorithm is? Our lives are algorithms. That's what makes us technocrats.
Exactly.
So.
Oh, that's pretty scary. You're making me think a lot about that.
Yeah.
So once
that genetic conversation was a one of a kind,
Once your eyeballs, once your face, your fingers have all been compromised.
Your DNA itself. Yeah, there's no way the thing is, it's not scary if everybody's on the same page and it can be revoked. But there's no common revocation methodology for biometrics.
And isn't it true that
I can't put myself in a database and say I've been compromised, and then no one will use that crap anymore, and New York City will contact me and make me set a password or something.
So let me ask you this question: what was that thing where the camera on the Xbox that you can use it as? So wait a minute. I'm a huge Kinect guy. I think I lost 60 pounds on exercise using a Kinect video. Did my biometrics from Kinect make it into the world? Will they know my entire body type?
Good enough to get biometric. Did you use Xbox One or 360?
One.
One?
No, 360, the older
I
one.
don't think it was strong enough on the 360 to get anything other than your heat signature.
Really? But you're saying that on the one, it could have got my 300 points of body type.
The way they built the Xbox One, which is such a... the way they built the Xbox, I'm just going to give a brief.
No, it's great. I love it, dude. You know your shit on this. I do not know this, so.
The way they built the Xbox One is that they made it so they shipped the Kinect, so it's $500 opposed to the $400, and they allocated a third of the RAM and processing power to the Kinect for you to use, so games couldn't use that power of the RAM or anything.
Right.
And that was a big thing that people were pissed off about, and because of that, they put so much effort into the Kinect to make it better, and which ultimately failed anyway. But if you bought an Xbox and you hooked up a Kinect, you were there. You were being spied on. It's very possible.
Oh man, and that's your whole body type. I mean, your face, your body, your arms, your speech.
Well, at least it's not your full DNA. There's that at least, but.
On the Kinect, it was a very basic camera. Because I don't think they could have gotten your biometrics from that.
But let's say the sophisticated one. Look at how much data was compromised on the one that was capable of doing it.
Yeah.
That's an incredible amount of physical information they got from that.
Hopefully not any embarrassing pics. I'm sure you get the fake fraudulent extortion videos. We saw what you were doing when you were alone in the room.
Yeah, I got one the other day.
Except I know that my cameras are always covered, so I'm like, yeah, buddy, okay.
Yeah, I got a sticker on my cameras also, so they said they recorded me. I go, well, listen, go ahead.
They recorded me on this, but it was facing the ceiling, so I don't know what they're going to get.
Right.
I was like, listen, I'm working all the time, so I wish I had time to watch the other stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But I would say I get those once a week where like, hey, this is your password, hacked from somewhere in the dark web, and it's some old password. We've been watching you. We want 14 bitcoins or whatever.
14 bitcoins.
You know.
They have to update their. What kind of video would? I mean, that is like some CIA blackmail network kind of level stuff. What could you possibly be doing that would be worth 14 bitcoins? Holy crap!
Well, I realized it had
feeding children to goats. I mean, what?
How much is 14 bitcoins today?
$140,000.
Videos of me. I say, send them out. Go ahead.
What?
Successfully ransomed someone for 14 Bitcoin and someone actually had it? Jesus Christ.
I mean, you get like serious, fully automatic, like machine guns, armored cars, helicopters. You can finance a real operation. Yeah. With quite a lot of hired guns for 14 bitcoins. I'd come in after you if you really got me for 14 bitcoins.
6 Bitcoin when I was stupid and a child, but still.
Imagine 6 Bitcoin today. Oh man.
This is back when Bitcoin was worth like pennies.
Oh man.
So I had them like, yeah, you can have them, take them. Yeah. And just give them away.
Yeah, I did pretty well in Bitcoin. It's one of the reasons that I'm able to be retired for now. So.
Oh, very good for you.
Well, the best part is I don't like to brag about it, but I'm happy that it happened the way it happened. Part of the reason it happened is because I did a talk for my user group where I demonstrated how to purchase and use wallets with Bitcoin, and then just kept it. Wow. So that was part of what happened. So it was actually helping others, and it ended up helping me. So I was like,
well, amen, bro. That the universe was able to bless somebody so nice with.
I'm not always nice, but I was nice that time. I was nice that time, so yes. Yeah, I got credit for that one. Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. I try to be nice. A lot of people are like, I hate virtue signaling, and I don't want to do it. But so in a way, it's kind of self-contained. But I also, I really, aside from however I did personally with it, I really think Bitcoin is the future because it's the flagship for cryptos, and yes. I mean distributed networks like that, distributed money, I mean, there's no comparison. Think about what I was talking about, hierarchies. This is the one solution that's being presented to us right now. Of course it's going to go through the roof. We're not done. I mean, there's countries doing sovereign settlements in Bitcoin right now. There's going to be more of that. So I know that you said you wanted to bail in 2 hours. Are you okay for more?
I'm okay for a little bit. Yeah, I'm totally fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe another little coffee and we'll go for another hour.
What, really?
Yeah.
Whoa! Talk about
Yeah, I think we only have
synchronicity.
40 minutes left, so.
I had a really interesting conversation with actually an ex-monk. A friend of mine is an ex-monk about synchronicity, and he's like, yeah, synchronicity is basically just grace, you know. So it doesn't really matter whether you're coming at it from like an atheist kind of point of view or a spiritual or a Christian kind of point of view. It's really just being in sync with the universe, and when you're doing it right, you just whoop. You're right in there, and you're slipping between the seconds, you know?
Did you see Lo and Behold, the movie?
No, I haven't seen
A
that.
highly recommended movie. It's about the internet and what it means. And I won't be a spoiler, but in the middle is a bunch of monks.
Whatever, you spoil it if you want.
They're a bunch of monks, and they talk about what the world and the internet is, and they see a bunch of monks, and they're all on their iPhones like this. You gotta see it. You gotta see it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you gotta check it out. It's great movie. Lo and Behold, it's about the internet.
Well, you know, I mean, it's right. So, on the one hand, you know, the meditation is amazing. You know, introspection, self-examination, taking time out to smell the roses, you know, however you want to think about it, is critically important to being a balanced human being. On the other hand, there's infinite information out there and a limited time that you're going to be on this planet, and you want to. I mean, I'm curious. I'm a monster when it comes to knowing how things work. I don't want to necessarily know the details. When it comes to concepts, I can't stop.
Yeah.
I'm addicted. I like, and so like, how do I balance? I mean, how do you do it? How do you balance between inner spirituality and keeping your psyche and your physical being healthy, but also learning? You know, you're clearly passionately curious, so and learning about the world around you.
I've realized that if I live till I'm 83 years old, it's 4,316 weeks, 30,295 days.
Nice.
If you look at how much physical time is available and all the amazing things we can learn about, there's not enough time for everything.
Right.
So you begin to think like, where do I want to spend my time? And to realize there's all this stuff in such limited time, it's extremely interesting.
Right.
You know, what's the human condition inside of that whole situation?
Well, you know,
But entire lifetime is what, 30, 40,000 days? What does that really mean?
what
And your realization of what that lifetime, what you can...
is it more? Is it acceptable though to at least dream of horse trading and getting more days at the end?
Yeah,
Or-
I think that everything's based on our dreams, right? You're imagining it and you're executing on
You
it.
know, because it's very distracting, right? You know, people who spend all their time on apocalypse, or people who spend all their time on immortality, you know, it can be extremely negative, and you can just completely focus all your energy on that and become a bad person. You know, not evil, but just so self-engrossed that you can't function in the world around you.
How do I get there?
But on the other hand, yeah, how do I get there? Focus totally on how do I get there. On the other hand, man, it would be great to pick up a few extra years at the end, because you know that changes the equation. Now I can do more. I can dive into things deeper.
But who
You know?
really cares how many days till the end? Just
there's more to learn.
just be to do everything you can to
I mean, you know,
meet
there's
those
like
barriers.
it's a scientist mantra. You know, I'll sleep when I'm dead, but at the same time, sleep is good for you, and sleep is when you solve creative problems. Sometimes, you know. So which is it? I don't know.
Well, I mean, think about it though. So you learn things in your first 10,000, 15,000 days, and now you lead the rest of your life thinking you're a result of what happened to you.
Right.
When you're just that person, if you can figure out, I think, how to not be a result of your actions and just be you, I think that's how you extend those days, if anything, or make the maximum out of it. As opposed to letting
Optimization's the
your
key.
first 10,000 days define who you are for the rest of your existence.
Yeah, a lot of people do that, right?
Yeah, well, you think you are a product of what you've learned.
They think that piece of land that they spent on that time on is important, is the most important thing to them, or the people they spent that time with was the most important thing, and it's I think that's important. I'm not saying it isn't
to be
important,
with others, sure.
but I mean, you know, it's also up to you to choose your own destiny and make your own choices, and you have to be willing to step off that piece of land and meet new people and explore new ideas and it's I guess optimization of the self is really, you know, it's just as important to sit down and
I just
chill.
want to say, I know a friend who's in a wheelchair. He has not been defined by that, and he, you know, you can't let yourself define yourself by that, and just be who you are. And then none of those physical or problems, or you lost a parent, or
Was he in the wheelchair his whole life? I mean, I don't want to pry,
there was an accident and things happened.
And he's not bitter about it?
Defend it. I actually know a few people who've had physical ailments like that, and in all the cases I see, and they're brilliant people, and they don't let that define them.
Nice.
And they live their lives, and in some ways, maybe you can even be stronger from that.
Right.
And I think you got to be so careful that when you get abused or you have a physical accident or something happens, that defines your whole life. And
right.
you have to be so careful to make sure you just are who you are. And
Right. I think the key to life is clearly how you treat people. I think that's because it's not just because the golden rule is what glues society together, but also because I think it's one of the things I figured out about forgiveness. So I'm a Christian, but I will say this: I've never made an argument as a Christian that I won't also make as an atheist, and I've never seen anyone else make that claim. So I'm just keep waiting for someone to challenge it and to come up with something like that can't possibly be true because. But anyway,
okay.
So. So I've always thought a lot about forgiveness because that's a big Christian thing. So and I realized that actually the key with forgiveness it isn't about what doing something for some deity on another plane or in our plane or whatever, doing anything for anyone else. Forgiveness is actually about yourself. And the reason why is because if I can make you angry, I can control you. But if you forgive me, I can't control you anymore. Right? I'm not saying forget. Forgetting and forgiving are completely different.
Correct.
Yeah. So you remember what I did, but at the same time, you can forgive me and say, okay, well, I'm not going to let that define me. I'm going to move on and make the best me I can, and I'm not going to let him interfere with that. And you win every time you do that. And that's the secret to forgiveness. So, and actually, I figured this out.
I just want to say that some people are aggravated by the fact that sometimes people have that ability.
Absolutely.
And people want to get under your skin.
You know who's the most aggravated by that? Psychopaths, because they can't do it.
Really?
They cannot forgive like that, right? Mm-hmm. They just, because it's not about empathy. Mm-hmm. You can't really forgive without empathy. Mm-hmm. You can forget, you can calculate around it, but you can't really forgive.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think forgiveness is the ability, that function of forgiveness, the ability to, because really what are you doing? You're telling your conscience, forget about it, don't let it affect you, don't let it make you mad. You're forcing it to stop having an emotional reaction to something via your conscience. You don't have a conscience, you can't do it.
Interesting.
You can't retrain yourself. The world can retrain you, but you can't retrain yourself.
Interesting.
So the best thing a psychopath could do is to have someone in their life who knows they're a psychopath, help them retrain themselves and retrain themselves through their own empathy. In other words, borrow their empathy to train them to forget about the transgressions against them.
Interesting.
And that way they'll be in that kind of state of, even though they're a psychopath, they'll be in a state of zen. Hopefully it doesn't involve murdering everybody. No, I'm just kidding. That's not how they really are.
But they'll be in a place where it's sort of controlled.
Where it's more controlled than it would be if they would just, imagine having to live with everybody who's ever wronged you. And all you have to do is have the literal logical memory of them invoked. You'd fly into a fury every day, and that's, I think, literally what's happening to them. And it's terrible. I feel awful for them. I think they've been really, this is one of those things I was saying, just understanding them, you're not mad at them anymore, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, psychopaths, yeah, kill that guy, turn into a kind of a witch hunt kind of mentality. We don't have to do this anymore. I think we really can just step out of this pattern. And, I mean, if you believe in a higher being or a higher plane, or if you think that we're in a simulation, or if you think that there's aliens out there, controlling us and nudging us in certain directions, a la like First Contact, but pre-First Contact, it doesn't really matter which one it is. They're all kind of the same problem. And this is one of the things that I pointed out to friends of mine who are atheists. Sure, you can be an atheist. You can decide, okay, it's probably aliens or it's nothing. It's just randomness. We've been fooled by randomness. It's apophenia.
Yes.
But it's really all the same problems. The problems that God would face having a species with free will are the same problems that sysadmin would face having a bunch of people sharing a server. It's the same problems. I mean, that's literally why root is God mode. You know what I mean? So,
and I don't know, and I see this virtual worlds we've created. It almost seems like it's proof that we're living in a virtual world and we're recreating that same thing.
So you're more on the.
I'm in the Westworld concept that we're,
Well, we're just in a construct, and Elon Musk thinks we're all in a simulation because.
I feel that the attributes that we see and what people go through, it really seems that way,
Right. Well, there's been some crazy synchronicities in my life where I was just like, what did that? What? I mean, and I'm not just talking about my phone targeting an ad, which is really creepy.
Yeah.
But like, were you listening to me? Like you say something and then it comes up in an ad, like, no. But like things where it's like, how? Two people who were in other rooms, who were about to meet and discuss something, had the same experience, and then boom, they meet up and they're like, what? How did that happen? And it doesn't make any sense in an independent, chaotic universe, but it makes a lot of sense in a simulation where maybe some efficiencies inadvertently happen as algorithms are shared, and
Did you see the Extinction movie on Netflix?
Yes, I did. You're talking about? Oh no, sorry.
So that's it. Am I allowed to talk about that?
How old is it?
I don't know, 2-3 years old.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, go for it. 1 month is the rule. So if it's older than a month, it's fine.
So no, it's very interesting. So it's an alien invasion movie.
Okay.
And you're seeing the alien. You see this guy is in the streets. He's starting to see alien invasions. He's like, "Hey man, look in the sky. You see that?" And they're like, "I don't know what you're talking about." All of a sudden, aliens come and invade. In the middle of the movie, you realize that the people who were being invaded were actually androids living in a city, and it was the humans coming back to take the android city back.
That is spectacular.
Fabulous concept.
Now I have to see it.
Around what we're talking about, because they didn't realize they were androids.
Right. Oh yeah, they constantly go over this in Black Mirror. What does it mean to be human? It's not enough to just have our thought patterns. And in Westworld too, where they say basically, where they figure out the genetic code, so to speak, for the human thought pattern and boil it down to like some sort of file format that can be read by an algorithm. They figured out, and this is what it means to be human. This human will do this.
Yes.
And it's actually just a decision tree, a really complex decision tree, but a decision tree.
But look, we're creating these parallel worlds. We're creating this. Isn't the fact that we came from there something we're creating either consciously or subconsciously in a likeness of us?
Yeah, so I stop. I've seen people actually who think that you're constantly creating the universe around you simply by thinking about what you want things.
Right, like string theory.
Right. Like they're literally.
Every conscious thought becomes a planet or something.
Right. Every possible, simply thinking it makes it not only possible but happen, and it's just a question of if that's your universe or not. Yeah. But I think there probably are infinite universes, but I don't think it's driven by our brains.
String theory.
What?
There was an update in string theory. There's an article that was just released about it.
Okay, go on.
Where it says that string theory was limited to, I believe, was estimated, I think, 10,000 possible parallel universes around there.
Really?
Because they said that there's like possibility, because due to the concept of string theory, is that it could be arguably infinite, but the likelihood of that is very finite.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
Well, I think that's how our conscience works. Our conscience is just a probability engine. It's just a likelihood engine. So when we look at something, we say, really, we seem like we're nice, but we're really just assessing risk. If I screw this guy over, it might burn me over and over and over and over again. I better not screw him over. That we're not really nice. We're really it's just a Darwinistic
we're just
advantage.
A bunch of rats trying to.
That's my theory, Civ gene, that psychopaths are actually behind us, and we're evolutionary the next step from them, because being able to calculate risk at that level is actually an advantage, not a disadvantage. Suffice it to say that you control it through things like forgiveness. If you don't, then you get jacked, and then it controls you. But
so much of just a misguided, just flesh, beings flying around,
right,
trying to make their own religious things, so they have something else.
Right. Making it up. We have all these artifacts that go with the mechanism. Remember, it's Darwinism, right? It doesn't have to be efficient or effective or even on point. It just has to be a little bit better than everybody else.
I guess the problem I have with that is clearly throughout the universe there's other life. To say that, I think zeroes into not necessarily being life throughout the universe, and the human form exists the infinite amount of times throughout different planes.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm even, one talking about infinite
we're
planes.
not talking about computers, by the way.
Well, no, but we are,
Yeah,
right?
I guess
Because
we
we're really getting. I mean,
true.
I 15 years ago, and he's since come back out of it. Actually, he's not the only one. So I can even say 15 years ago, I know 2 different people who got completely lost to MMORPGs, massive, online role-playing games.
Yeah.
They just were gone. That's it. They completely ignored real life and just played in their virtual world.
How much? How long?
Just for years. They were
every
just,
day?
Yeah, every day.
What do you mean?
I
How
know
many
someone who
hours?
did it on Second Life, and I know someone
I was
who
a
did
Second
it.
Life guy.
And I know someone else who did it on World of Warcraft, and they just were gone. That's it. They did not engage with the rest of the world for years.
Did they work?
No, both of them were unemployed, and it was just what they did. Fortunately, I'm doing this and not that.
Did they
I
have
consider
money
myself
to
lucky.
be able to?
Yeah, they had money. They had financial resources available to them. Let's just say that. So it wasn't like it ruined their life, but their lives just completely stopped, and they just did that. So in a way, yeah, we are
Good
talking
for them
about.
that they have enough money to sit at home.
It wasn't. I'm being nice.
And sit at home. They're millionaires sitting at home playing Warcraft every day. Don't have kids or no responsibilities. Amen.
But
Amen. Where do I sign up?
Yeah, don't do that. Don't just. This is not an endorsement.
Let's
Yeah.
make a lot of money and play Second Life all day long.
For Second Life became First Life.
Right.
But these things that we're talking about, these decisions and these choices are already being played out at a world building levels, at in existing video games and existing pre-VR systems. Forget it when we're in like a holodeck level technology where you literally can power the system up and you don't even notice the change. Regardless of whether it's like Black Mirror where you have the cookie on your head or whatever, or you have a holodeck where you just open the door and close it and then it just appears in front of you. But either way, it's already happening even without that level of immersion. So when that level of immersion comes, you better have all this stuff squared away that we're talking about, because you're not going to be able to handle where reality begins and ends.
Yeah,
otherwise.
but hold on. You've seen the AI decisions made already. They were not positive, right?
Yeah.
The AI decisions was...
they were psychopaths, that's why.
Well, the one they did in the colleges when they said it was only a certain type of demographics that fit this,
Right.
With the AI on the credit stuff, they were racially motivated.
Right. You're talking about the artificial intelligence programs. Right. Yeah. So I think a lot of what that is those. So I think that
they favored men for certain jobs than women. What are we doing?
I think that the animal kingdom as a whole does not act like us. I think human beings have some unique attributes, and this is what's really interesting to me. So I think that this is also separating the human beings that are not psychopaths from the ones that are. The ones that are not psychopaths are the ones that are unique in the animal kingdom. We have friendships instead of alliances. We have property instead of territory. Raris was arguing with me about this, and I came up with a whole list of them, and I'm still waiting for someone to challenge these, in a demonstrable way. There's a lot of people are absolutely fascinated with animal altruism because it breaks this. And in particular, dogs are very interesting because they tend to be more altruistic than most other pets. I'm not picking on cats, they're just very self-involved. But we're really different. Look at money. What is money? There's nothing like money in the animal kingdom. It's simple. You could do it. You could have whole clamshells as money for monkeys.
So are you saying that if an alien life form were to visit this planet from a distant galaxy,
right?
So they showed up, they see the moon, they're like, they approach Earth. Let's find the beings we want to talk to first.
Right.
Do you think they'll choose humans to talk to first?
Well, actually, here's the crazy thing. I think they're already here. And I think they're just waiting for us to act in a more mature fashion.
But let's say in a hypothetical question, the ones that haven't.
I mean, I'm not saying like there's aliens everywhere. Run for your lives. I'm saying that if aliens exist, they're here already. If they don't, they don't.
So the aliens that are here, but new aliens.
New aliens, okay.
You know, the purple ones that we got
the ones that have better stealth technology than the aliens that are here already.
They haven't been here yet, and they're entering the region.
Okay.
And they don't know there's other aliens, so that they just see.
They just see what's going on Earth.
On
right.
Earth.
Right.
Are they going to talk to humans first?
I presume so. I mean, I don't know. What would their motivations be? So
will they measure on brain size, on accomplishment?
The question is civilization an obvious path of progression?
Yes.
That's the real question you're asking. I think so, and in that case, they probably will talk to us.
Because of the industrialization that they can see.
No, because of the altruism that we show towards the rest of the planet. Not all of us. Obviously not all of us. But yes, some of us. Some people really do care.
What are the percentage of aliens that will come in and say, this is a parasite that needs to be removed from the face
that's
of the planet.
That's another possible outcome. Yes.
Look, they're screwing up this beautiful planet.
Well, if I'm wrong and civilization isn't a natural progression, then that's probably what would happen. Aliens coming and killing us might be an answer to that, and might be an answer to the question of, is civilization a natural progression? The answer might be no if they came and killed us. If they didn't kill us, yes, please. That would be great. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. This is why it's great. Thank you so much, Steve, for being the engineer.
I'm trying to conceive if anybody's listening, what the hell they think we're talking about.
Right. Well, they're probably waiting. So one of the things I think. So let's say it is a progression, right? And let's say that human beings sometimes are kind to the planet and animals and plant life and the planet itself and each other, and sometimes not. So then it's just a matter of becoming a Type 1 civilization, acting as a planet. There's going to be some kind of criteria. You know, you remember the movie First Contact with Star Trek. Their criteria was a warp drive. When you build a warp drive, you're worthy of being in the Galactic Federation. Right? That was what the Vulcans, Vulcans saw a warp signature, Vulcans landed. Right? I don't think it's a warp drive. I don't think it's a tech thing. I don't think it's like, oh, look, they made a Galaxy S10. Now we'll go down and say hi to them. I don't think it's that. I think it's something we do. Some kind of new behavior as a group. Maybe not as individuals, right? Because if we're waiting for a Darwinistic new behavior, we might be here a while. But
I'll take you back to an important moment in a TV show, and you're a Trekkie, this is for the Trekkies. When Q telling Picard, when Q had Picard and on the judgment table,
yes, be
and
my
he
Q.
was judging humanity of whether it was right just to join the bigger thing.
Right.
What an important part of our thought process, where this higher alien being was questioning Picard of whether the human race is worthy to be part of this higher realm in the universe.
Right. Well, the best part about that is clearly Q's in-interrogation was just a literary device, because in real life the alien would already know the answer. Right. And it's possible that we might have been that close to it, and he just wanted to pull us in that little bit extra so that he could. But yeah,
and it's interesting how he had the people laughing behind him, this ancient court feeling,
right,
embarrassing him, or are you worthy?
Some of the worst attributes of humanity.
Exactly.
Yeah, that oligarchy.
Oh my gosh! And one of the scenes were like, remember when you were the police officers, and and he had the suit on and became very militant part of society.
I remember that clear as day.
Takes a little coke thing, and like they were all
right. They were talking about the wars where the soldiers were addicted to drugs, and it was World War III, and it was really horrific, and there was mass deaths, and he's like, people are terrible. Why should we include you?
And that reminds me of the Nazi Party again, because they were all on crystal meth in the field. It was a major drug-induced war for these guys to survive the winters.
Right. Well, so you could look at it two ways. You could look at it. You could look at the Nazis pre-Hitler, or you could look at the Nazis post-Hitler. So I think that's part of the question.
But the drug addiction,
were the Nazis was Hitler just a goofball on the street, and the problem is he had the opportunity, or was the problem that that particular man was just that evil?
But what percentage of that war was based on the crystal meth mix that they were giving all the soldiers?
I actually...
To what degree? Clearly for Hitler...
I was kind of dodging the question because I don't know the answer to that, because I don't know about that. Tell me about it. They had an early version of crystal meth for the Nazis?
Yeah, well, obviously many people know that Hitler was a serious drug addict being medicated every single day.
I know there's coke involved.
A whole chemical mix, and it was shared with the soldiers so they could work in the field without
and that's been
soldiers.
I mean, we've been doing that since as long as we've been doing war. I mean, opium, even more benign ones, like the British had tea, they became more mighty warriors when they drank a tea before they went into battle, caffeine, yay, caffeine. Cheers to caffeine.
Cheers to caffeine.
By the way, do you want some alcohol? I have not yet to ask you.
I am okay. I just want to say you have something very interesting over there.
Yes.
The emergency drinking water, the MRE drinking water. The emergency drinking water. Now, I've eaten a couple of MREs.
Yeah.
I've never seen emergency drinking water.
That is authentic from the 50s. So that was from the Cuban Missile Crisis era.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and actually I picked it up at a car show, and he had some old bunker supplies. And I was like, I got to get this. There's water in there. Theoretically, it should be drinkable because it was sterilized and sealed.
How much money you on? I'll give you $20 to open.
I mean, this is supposed to be what you live on if there's a bomb that dropped, during a nuclear war. So, I mean, it should be fine.
That's amazing. I've never seen emergency drinking water, property of U.S. government. Barrier Company, Boston, Mass. Wow.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder what it smells like. That's very interesting.
I think it should just be water. I think it should be extremely boring. The guy. It's funny. I bought it. The guy's like, "Don't drink that." I'm like, "Why not?" I'm not drinking it.
Have you ever eaten an MRE, a real MRE?
Well, I've eaten a modern MRE, and they're pretty good. Yeah. Actually, yeah, they're not bad. But yeah, I know that they weren't always that good.
What happened with that can? That's really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's kind of cool. I was like, it's in good shape. I thought I'd bring it on. Somebody spent a lot of money to put this can together and fill it with water and have it on a shelf just in case, and it was a sunk cost, and it never got used. So was it waste or was it not?
Listen, this would sell today. So
right.
This is a great marketing tool.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of that stuff. I used to go to Pennsylvania to these trade shows and stuff, and they have tons of stuff like this that they sell, excess from wars and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Good. Well, listen, I think we talked about a lot of stuff.
We talked about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to the point of Q, which I think is about where humanity is at the limit. We reached the outer limit.
A limited Gene Roddenberry conversation here. Not a lot of people have seen that show.
Right. No, well, go watch it. No excuses here on the Technocrat Live. Yeah. You must become technocrats because otherwise you're not part of the system. So, yeah.
Part of the system. You're just not part of the ones running the system.
You're not really part of the system. You're a minion. You're not a decider. And actually, I want to bring more people into the decider because I really think democracy works. And that makes what's happening terrifying. So,
But what I like is that you've been in it for a long time. I have too. I love technology as much as the day I started it. And I know a lot of people get burnt out or they do stuff, but there's so much amazing stuff about technology that you should never be able to burn out from it.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
find your spot.
Technology is completely ethically neutral. Yeah. It's just tools. And this is why I get mad when people say, "I want to ban this tool." Maybe you just need a system where it's not abused.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but that's ultimately what everybody needs to do is just find their spot and get through their 30,000 days as pleasantly as possible.
Right. Well, you made my one day of the 30,000 really awesome, and I think you helped a lot of people out there too, both with knowledge and with guidance. So it was a lot of fun. You have a lot of insight into the world. I mean, like I said, you got to the point. We got to you have reached the furthest point in this conversation so far in the show. We got all the way to Q. Really, I'm not even sure where it goes next. I can't wait to find out who brings it to the next step past Q. Hopefully, it's not Annihilation. Although that would be a very interesting show, wouldn't it? So thanks so much for being
Absolutely.
on.
Thank you very much. You're a highly dynamic individual. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thanks everybody. If you have
I just want to leave the show by saying we all wish Dave Mustaine all the best in his medical situation.
Send them positive. If you're one of those creating reality people,
Dave
send them positive
Mustaine,
energies.
We're all on your side, bro.
Yeah. Awesome. Megadeth rocks.
Megadeth rocks.
Thank you, Matthew Newell, Ed Eisenstein. Thank you for coming and watching the Technocrat Live, and I'll see you next week. We have a panel next week. So, would you like to be in the panel?
I have 5 time. We'll talk about it.
All right. Well, we'll see. All right. Anyway, we'll have a panel next week. See you then. Good night.